The corpse-selling sect. The Soul race was one of the minority races of the myriad emperor world, with their population barely enough to classify them as a medium-sized races. As for their overall power, they only had 2 great emperors. Regrettably, one event forced their race to live in seclusion in a small world forever. Their second emperor, Multiple Face Emperor, had the ambition to use her race's natural ability to possess people to enact a grand plan. The Multiple Face Emperor wanted to divide her soul into an infinite number and possessed every living being in the myriad emperor world, turning into an aggravated mass of souls or a hive mind. Unfortunately for her, she first targeted the 5 Elements Palace, where they were at their peak and the leader of Taoism. All 6 of their best insurgent besieged the Multiple Face Emperor, who was a peak first-class emperor. She lost the fight with her body destroyed. However, as an expert in Soul Dao, she escaped, and the Soul race was forced to live in isolation, only showing up during the Heavenwell battle. Wang Wei knew to this day, there were rumors that the Multiple Face Emperor did not leave but moved her plan to behind the scenes. She wanted to be more secretive and not so direct. The events of the Soul race were one of the few exciting things that occurred during the new beginning emperor, along with the rapid rise of the academy. That battle severely impacted the 5-element palace, leading to the direct confrontation with the profound Tai Gate. Not long afterward, they cultivated their 7th emperor and won the confrontation. Then they forced the 5-element palace to leave the central continent. Wang Wei stopped his words as he sensed something. He looked outside and saw an enormous dragon covering the sky and wailing before dispersing into trillions of motes of light. A sense of sadness and loss suddenly enveloped the entire world. They mourned the passing of a great man. The mortals did not know what was happening, but the cultivators did. A heaven chosen had perished. They quickly calculated who it was and learned it was from the great Wu dynasty Sun Jialong. And, of course, they wanted to know who did it. No answer. No one could divine information about Wang Wei unless they were at least a 3rd-class insurgent. Nevertheless, he knew people would find out it was him since he was not exactly careful about hiding his whereabouts. The great Wu dynasty definitely already knew since it had been 6 months since their genius died, and they would instantly know after his soul lamp was extinguished. And any intelligent person can deduce that only the Era Sun could delay the announcement of a heaven-chosen's death. After Sun Jialong's funeral, Wang Wei proceeded with his life. What is so special about this person? Recently, the corpse-selling sex business has been booming. Many people want good corpses to possess in the hope of being lucky and increasing their talent, explained Wang Ju. Body possession has some advantages that many people want to take advantage of. For example, some races are naturally gifted. By possessing them, an individual will get rid of the shackles of their talents and achieve wonders in the cultivation journey. The only problem is ensuring the soul fits perfectly with the body. Cultivators require many techniques, arrays and resources for the process. And there is a limit to the number of times someone can exchange body based on their cultivation. Most cultivators, even someone as naturally talented as Wang Wei, can only have between a 95 to 99% fit with any bodies they possess. But the soul race does not have any of these issues. However, Yu Zhu asked for a very specific body. The requirements were so stringent that the corpse-selling sect had to contact its other branches to get it for him. Wang Wei squinted his eyes. The corpse-selling sect can be considered one of the most powerful factions of the Endless Void. And they most likely hold the first position. There are branches scattered in every heavenwell world, and many have 1 or more great emperors. Their sect operated as if it was a business or corporation, focused only on selling corpses. They rarely provoke or clash with anyone. They are the epitome of low-key development. However, Wang Wei saw them as a threat, especially after coming in contact with other heavenwell worlds and learning how far this sect has spread its fangs. Just the amount of chi luck this faction has is unfathomable. And according to his prediction, their factions have more branches under different names, dormant in case something happens and they need to hide or start over. The founder of the corpse-selling corps is something, thought Wang Wei. According to his predictions with how they operated, the corpse-selling sect won't be much trouble for his plan. On the contrary, they might be the perfect partners. However, he wanted the luck of their factions for himself. The problem was their founder. He didn't know who it was yet, but whoever it was must have been a brilliant man. What Wang Wei worries about is this person is now one of the paragons in limbo, and he will one day use his sex chi luck to revive. And if he dips his greedy finger into the latter's food, he might create an enemy for himself, an enemy who was possibly on par with his ancestor. Do you have any information about Yu Zhu from when he was in the Soul Race's small world? Yes, replied Wang Ju before giving him the sleeper's information, and Wang Wei frowned. He suspected Yu Zhu was a spy from the upper dimension. However, his life had no anomalies. There was no sudden change in demeanor, behavior, sudden strength gain, or anything odd. Yu Zhu was one of the many geniuses of the soul race. And after defeating the others, he received the support of the entire race to cultivate for this generation's heaven will battle. If Yu Zhu is a spy, then it can mean two things. The method used by the upper dimension is not something we can detect. Secondly, they have been infiltrating the Myriad Emperor world since the beginning of this generation, commented Wang Wei. Do we have any other evidence to suggest he is a spy and not just from our world? Yes. It's the flame mark on his forehead. What does this have to do with anything? This kind of mark could be a fashion sense or an indication that Yu Zhu cultivated a powerful flame technique. From the records, we discovered that someone used to have a similar mark in his youth, the undead Phoenix Emperor. Wang Wei squinted his eyes. He told the Fate Shadow Guard to be on the lookout for any information related to Undead Phoenix Emperor and the Disaster Emperor since they had a connection to the Myriad Emperor world. Keep a lookout for Yu Zhu. Even though he only received the Undead Phoenix's inheritance, he is suspicious. Send a few people to test his ability. As you wish. What about the corpse-selling sect? We should have people in high positions, right? Yes. Can they also infiltrate the other branches? Not very likely. Contact with the other branches has strict requirements. What about the Fate Shadow Guard branches I've instructed you to create? Thanks to your help, the initial development is going well. But, without the sleepers, it's almost impossible to infiltrate the high levels of so many factions without being detected. Indeed. With his Spirit Flower's ability, Wang Wei helped the Fate Shadow Guard spread in other heavenward worlds. However, if he wants things to be in the Myriad Emperor realm, with spies in high positions in every sect, it's not possible in a short time, especially since there are no sleepers for him to take over. Alright. Continue monitoring laying low in the corpse-selling sect. Place them as a priority when it comes to news. As you wish. I have a few important things to do before I go into retreat. I will take this time for us to go through the ceremony for you to officially become my shadow. Wang Zhe's eyes lit up in excitement. She bowed to him before excusing herself to attend to her duty. Meanwhile, Wang Wei used his sect master to send a request to the ancestor. He needed to do something crucial that required their help. And only after succeeding will he be able to sleep soundly. Then he rushed home to see his wife. Wu Hong looked at him with a side eye. Your footsteps indicate you are not excited to see me but want something from me. I just want to ask something. So, I was right. Wanting and asking are two different things. Semantic. What do you want to know? If you're asking about the Heaven Devourer Emperor, I never interacted with the man so I know very little. No. I want to know about the founder of the corpse-selling sect. Wu Hong frowned deeply after hearing the question. Death Reverence, Gift Bonus Chapter. Thanks to Drew-X for the gift. You're asking about Death Reverence? Is that his name? Commented Wang Wei. The corpse-selling sect's founder was a mystery because no one knows where the original sect started. Two branches claim to be the main one and where the founder originated, from the soul sublimation world and the underworldine world. The corpse-selling sect in both these heaven-will world has cultivated 5 great emperors and is the branch with the highest number. Do you want to deal with the corpse-selling sect? Asked Wu Hong, somewhat worried. Yes. I feel their faction's chi luck is worth the trouble. But I want to know your opinion. I don't know. What do you mean? I'm somewhat conflicted, reiterated Wu Hong. Part of me wants you to deal with them as this might be the only chance. However, I also don't want you to have anything to do with Death Reverence, especially early in your cultivation journey. So, who is this person that even makes you hesitate? Death Reverence was a boundless paragon on par with me and your ancestor. He played a significant role in all major events. However, we did not like him since we were always wary of him. Wary of what? Of his ambitions, ideals, goals, stated Wu Hong. When he was young, he became obsessed with death. He believed death was a beautiful thing that all things in existence should experience. That's dangerous. Yes, with his unparalleled talent, it was a recipe for disaster. So, what exactly did he do? We originally thought he spread the corpse-selling sect throughout the endless void to gather more luck and stuff. However, something he did during the Second War of Origin made us realize his real intention. Wu Hong paused to recollect and Wang Wei became intrigued. There was this one particular source chaos world that was troublesome to conquer. Some unknown power isolated it and we could not directly descend. We infiltrated it by sending clones, hoping for them to cultivate and rise to the top before taking it down from the inside. Unfortunately, this method failed, until Death Reverence showed up. The main issue with this Source Chaos world was that our clones would be discovered and destroyed when we tried to break the Empyrean realm. Was it different for Death Reverence? Asked Wang Wei. A little. After proving the Tao, he spread the corpse-selling sect throughout the all-savant world while his clone hid and did not continue to cultivate. After countless Yuan epochs, once it had spread in every corner of the world, he gathered the power of all the sects to instantly return to the Paragon realm. Wu Hong squinted her eyes. We thought we had finally succeeded. But that's when he showed his Fong. The corpse-selling sects were some sort of ceremony where he turned the entire all-savant world into a world of death, killing all sentient beings, no matter the realm. Wang Wei had a severe look on his face. Why would he do that since it would reveal his plans for the Eternal Ascension world? We don't know exactly. The best guess we had was something precious was inside the all-savant world. The very thing probably responsible for preventing us from entering and restricting our development. Wang Wei caressed his temple as he felt things were more complicated than he previously thought. He was only greedy for their sect's chi luck. He did not expect to be dealing with a powerful secret boss. What happened next? We did not hesitate to besiege him. After all, we did not want our home to suffer the same fate. And he survived? Asked Wang Wei in shock. Yes. Not only that, he ran away with only severe injuries. She remembered that battle. Countless peak-boundless paragons tried their best to eliminate Death Reverence, but he still escaped. Later on, he even participated in the ultimate taboo after the all-savant world suddenly disappeared from the face of the universe. That's scary to think. In that case, what about the corpse-selling sect? Why didn't you guys remove them? We tried but failed because of too many restrictions. What do you mean? Great emperors cannot intervene whatsoever in the lower dimensions after the ascension. Empyreans can be sent a projection, but they can only attack if willing to receive punishment from heavenly Tao. And their attacks also have limits. Paragons can also send projections and attacks. But there is a limit in the level of the attack. We tried to eradicate the corpse-selling sect by sending projections. However, Death Reverence will always appear and expel us, resulting in us only capable of destroying a few branches that recover after some time. Things are not adding up, said Wang Wei. How is this man so capable? That's the odd thing about him. After turning on him, we realized many of his methods were odd and had this incongruence or incompatibility to them. Moreover, in addition to his hiding ability, he was a master of the order and disorder Tao. What do you mean? He knew how to bend the rules of heavenly Tao to his advantage, explained Wu Hong. For example, the model of spreading to other world communities was not invented by the corpse-selling sect. Before the Null Era, this tactic was more common to ensure the spread of some factions and prevent them from destruction. However, true heavenly Tao's balance system activated and banned this method afterward. Any factions who tried this method were guaranteed to be schemed against, resulting in the destruction of the branches. Yet, the corpse-selling sect is intact. To this day, I do not know how he did it. Wang Wei sighed deeply, feeling things were too complicated. What about his homeworld? Is he from the Soul Sublimation or Underworldine world? Did you guys at least find something from there? None. In fact, no one truly knows the first branch since he made sure to erase it from his history. I even suspect he personally hides the first branch, completely isolating them from the outside. We also search his homeworld, the Spirit Central world. But we found nothing. I remember the Spirit Central world is a rare world dominated by the spirit race. Is Death Reverence one of them? Yes. To be exact, he is a tomb that gains sentience. Well, it fits with his name and motif, replied Wang Wei as he walked back and forth, pondering deeply. What about the two sons? Why don't they do anything about Death Reverence? Wu Hong suddenly realized something now that he had mentioned it. Both Mithriya and he know Death Reverence's weirdness and the potential danger he poses. However, since both his existence and history have not been erased, it means even those two could not find him. In that case, why haven't they eradicated the corpse-selling sect? That I don't know, she replied, shaking her head. However, you don't have to worry about the death ceremony. Death Reverence is the problem. Did you guys solve the ceremony problem? Yes. After failing to eradicate his sect, we left formations in the upper dimension to counter the ceremony. However, it would be ideal if the last worry was removed. She looked at him. What are you going to do? What do you think? With your plans, you will be in a unique position in the endless void. So, dealing with the corpse-selling sect should not be a problem. However, I don't want you to deal with death reverence so early. This man gives me a bad vibe. Wang Wei understood her hesitation. Death reverence is talented, extremely powerful, cunning, and has many weird methods that even the two sons cannot detect, dealing with such an opponent at the current stage of his cultivation path. Of course he had some advantages, but the cards were not stacked in his favor. Is he in limbo like the others? Yes. That's good news for me. However, it might not be enough. So, what are you going to do? He'll decide after proving the Tao. Too many things could happen from now until then, and Wang Wei wanted to watch the situation. As of now, he was leaning toward eradicating the corpse-selling sect. And it was not because of their chi luck but because his intuition told him that death reverence might be a problem for him in his later years of cultivation. And if he can damage him in any ways possible, he would take the opportunity. Simultaneously, he did not have to eradicate them now or doing himself. He could leave the means for others to do it and give the order after he ascends and reaches a certain cultivation level. It will all depend on the situation after proving the Tao. After chatting with Wu Hong and planning ahead, he went to check on his science and technology world while waiting for news from his ancestors. The assembly? Wang Wei watched everything in his surroundings. No longer existed the peaceful world full of tall and futuristic buildings. He could not see spaceships covering the sky like birds migrating. Instead, the sky had a dull gray color that gave the entire world a depressing atmosphere. He saw cracks in space scattered in different directions. Most places were devastated, including forests, mountains, rivers, and populated cities. There were only a few areas that looked like civilizations had begun anew. Genetics warriors are now rare, and the few powerful ones on par with void-shattering realm ruled over different sections of the world. Scientists were now the most valued individuals as fought over by various factions. However, they no longer had any power and were forced to focus only on research. They were basically under house arrest. Those attacks did a number on this world, muttered Wang Wei. The original science and technology world was only a middle thousand world. Although Wang Wei controlled the laws of heaven and earth and even expanded the world at its essence, it was still a middle thousand world, making its spatial stability very fragile. When these two great emperors attacked with full force, they destroyed the world, killing more than 99% of its population. And in the 300 years Wang Wei was in retreat to cultivate, a new civilization sprouted out from the ashes of the old one. After checking the situation, he began to repair things. Using his spacetime law and fate law, he returned the world to its original state, including reviving the dead. The only problem was he could not save everybody. Many people died because of the great emperor's attack. And since these people were mortals, that attack eradicated their existence. And current Wang Wei could not do anything about that. However, he could still revive the people who died as a result of the world's destruction. He did try to save some people. Wang Wei tried using his past, present, future karma technique to save some people. He sent the news to one scientist in the past using a karma connection. He tasked the scientist to build a bunker for people's safety. Without heavenly Taoist restrictions, he can use his powers to do many things. Although the scientist could not convince many people the world was about to end, he did convince some. Unfortunately, this method failed as these people who died at the Great Emperor's attack still died even if they survived in the bunkers. As Wang Wei watched these specific individuals erased from existence, he muttered, "So, Great Emperors have some form of causal or temporal immunity to attacks, spells, and techniques below the mortal realm. By all logic, Wang Wei changed the past and these people should have survived. But this was not the case. Helpless, he continued to return the world to its previous state. He returned society to its original order, but he had to deal with the lack of population. He tried to clone the people he could not revive. And as expected, the Emperor's power did not allow these people to revive themselves in this manner. Helpless, he had to resort to create a large number of clones before modifying their faces. Luckily, there would be no problem in a short time because of the advanced genetic technology of this world. Nevertheless, Wang Wei also passed laws to encourage birth growth. He even removed the memories of the catastrophe from most of the population to prevent mass hysteria, depression, and anxiety. Finally, he left the blood samples for Saint, Supreme, and Quasi-Emperor for the scientists to continue their research. After exiting the science and technology world, he was somewhat worried that Grand Dao would show up and waited for a few minutes before he could move. He sighed in relief while also wondering how powerful Hongjun was even to protect him from Grand Dao. For the next few days, he waited for news from his ancestors while spending as much time as possible with his lovely wife. A week later he received a summon and teleported to one of the sect's secret realms. "You are?" he asked, looking at the middle-aged man before him. He had a peaceful aura that indicated he was a very stable person. Maybe too stable. "Origin 1. You can call me Sir Origin." Wang Wei cupped his hand to salute, but Origin 1 stopped him. "You're the sect master. You don't need to salute any of us." Wang Wei nodded, knowing this was one of the sect's rules. "Is everything already prepared?" "I thought it would take longer," continued Wang Wei. "During Gu Xian's trial we already had a semi-official alliance. So it was simpler to gather everyone." "That's good." He nodded. "Can I ask you a question?" "Sure, but I might not answer. I've heard about the others. Sword 1, Desolate 1 and so on. Do you all cultivate the same Tao as our emperors?" "Some of us do, but not all of us," Sword 1 replied. "For example, I cultivate Thunder Tao. However, Qiyuan blessed me with many abilities from Origin Tao. And it's the same for the others who cultivate different Taos." "That makes sense. So it's just a title." "You should understand that titles or words in general have power." "That's true." "Last question. The way you call the answer seems very intimate. Did you know him personally?" "Very astute," commented Origin 1. He knew this kind was intelligent, but it was different when you interacted with him and noticed this trait. "I was one of his elders back in the ancient Wang clan. I supported and protected him when others scorned him for his ideas and beliefs. I guess he would not be here today if not for you." "Maybe," replied Origin 1. "All right, let's begin the meeting." Wang Wei followed him to a room full of formations. After activating it, countless small screens appeared with people's faces. When Wang Wei showed up, everyone paid attention to him despite everyone present being an immortal tier powerhouse or accompanied by one. This was the political power of the sect master of the most powerful sect of the Myriad Emperor world and the son of an era title. "Greetings, fellow Taoist," began Wang Wei calmly, not nervous despite facing representatives of most of the emperor's lineages of the world from all 5 continents. "What is the reason for this meeting?" asked the Panlong race patriarch, who had an insurgent of his clan also accompanied. Typically, their sea race is left out of any conflict or interaction of the surface world. "Do you know of the recent changes that occurred in the lower dimension?" asked Wang Wei, getting directly into the core of this meeting. Most of the mortal leaders did not know what he was talking about, but the immortal powerhouses were aware. This is why Wang Wei insisted on them attending. These powerhouses immediately filled in their sect masters or patriarchs of the situation, resulting in small cluster chatters in this meeting. Wang Wei did not interrupt and gave these people enough time to think and process the information. "What does this have to do with this meeting?" asked the representative of the ancient clan, Huoru, Hua Fenghuang's father. "By now you are aware that many other worlds see our rise as a threat," added Wang Wei. "Without the interference of the upper dimension, many of these people will become more bold and direct in their actions. If they want a planar war, we are not afraid of them," commented Jian Yi from the sword-casting villa. "This is not the main issue. If these worlds allied together, they could disturb our heaven-will battle," added the representative from the 5-element palace. "We should also consider the possibility of immortal sovereigns intervening," proposed Di Tian's father. Wang Wei nodded, as this was one of his main worries. He believed Heavenly Tao did not like the unstable factor of immortal sovereigns in the lower dimension. So it schemed for their downfall, drastically reducing the number present. However, there should still be a few remaining. "Aren't you guys worrying too much?" stated the Mo clan patriarch from the western continent. "Nothing has happened yet." Wang Wei glanced at him. He decided to keep the news of the Heaven Devour Emperor's possible resurrection a secret since he had no proof besides his theory. Even if revealed, there is nothing to gain as of yet. "Have you people forgotten the forbidden zones, especially the Tao burial ground?" said Wang Wei. "Without pressure and possible intervention from the upper dimension, who knows what these people will do?" Indeed, the forbidden zones have become a liability for the Myriad Emperor world. In the current state of the world with no immortal sovereign, dealing with any eternal emperors is a recipe for disaster. "What do you suggest we do?" asked Tan Zichen, the sect madam of the Eternal Dream sect. "You must have some solution if you ask us here." "Yes," replied Wang Wei. "My solution is simple. We need to activate the human protection array. Not just it, but the demon and sea race protection array. And, you guys should be glad I don't feel like giving a cliffhanger. Good faith. The human and demon protection array is the primary reason the Myriad Emperor world did not entirely succumb to the devil race invasion. With its help, many eternal emperors died when trying to overthrow the balance of the world. With its service, the Academy could also exile the Heaven Devourer Emperor. The only downside was it would activate itself when the world was in danger, indicating it had a consciousness. However, with the human and demon destiny swords showing up, it could be actively activated and controlled. Your plan is good and all, said Panlong Clan Patriarch. But the sea race does not have a protection array. Patriarch Long, at this point in history, we all know that's a lie, rebutted Wang Wei. For your race to prosper, they must have a luck-condensing artifact. And one of your emperors should have calculated the benefit of a racial protection array. Even the spirit race with the smallest population definitely has those two things. Junior, you are calling me a liar? Demanded the Panlong Patriarch with a slightly raised voice. Junior, said Wang Wei with his usual calm demeanor. Since when did the cultivator world respect strength? Longhai, I give you respect because of your status, not your strength. Veins appeared on Patriarch Longhai's forehead. Not convinced? You can fight me and learn how many fingers I will use to destroy you and make you contemplate your existence. I guarantee if you survive more than one, your name will forever be entrenched in the annals of history. The meeting became quiet as many people, mostly the mortal representatives, suddenly realized something. The younger generation had surpassed them. Many heaven chosens in this generation are already true persons, meaning they are in the same realm. And even the ones who broke through after the path of Supreme was no longer cut realized that their new realm didn't matter since these geniuses can still fight and defeat them. Excuse my patriarch for his outburst, said Panlong I, the Panlong race's insurgent. The sea race will partake in this endeavor and do its part. He decided to defuse the situation since things could go wrong for them. Unfortunately, he was a little too late. The sea race has always been suspicious. Everyone looked at the spoken person, and it was Chin Chin, a younger generation and recently appointed sect master of Origin Weapon Mountain. What's the meaning of this? Asked Panlong I. From a historical perspective, your race has suffered the least in all the world's catastrophes. You stay isolated in your sea, out of reach with no trouble, he reiterated. That is far from the truth. The bald monks of the incense era hunted and forcefully converted our race. The devil race slaughtered us in large quantities when we refused to betray our home and join them. We lost many immortal sovereigns while fighting with the surface world. We also suffered. That may be true, but enough, declared Wang Wei. We are not here to compete on who suffered most throughout history. In fact, he agreed with Chin Chin that the sea race suffered less among all the races and factions of the world. He even started to suspect they might have an immortal sovereign still alive and present. If there were a faction that did, it would be them. Although Ancestor Wuqing told him there were no more of them left in the Myriad Emperor world, he also was not 100% sure. Finally, Wang Wei has an inherent fear that something terrible exists deep at the bottom of the ocean. It stemmed from all the conspiracy theories he read back on Earth about Chitalu and the thing living deep in the sea. If a creature could survive in the sea of the Myriad Emperor world, he could not fathom how powerful or scary it would be. Since the sea race has agreed with our notion, we can continue with our assembly. That's good and all. But the demon race cannot do anything, said the Golden Lion Chiefess. We do not have the demon destiny sword to activate the formation. The sword is in my hand, Wang Wei said calmly. And as a sign of good faith, I will hand it over to your race. The demon race representatives were immediately surprised. But before they could analyze the situation and give their thanks, someone objected. Sect Master Wang Wei, is this really a good idea? I agree. I think it would be best to place it in a secure place that all our factions can safely guard. I agree. Me as well. You humans only want to control the luck of our demon race. After what you people have done, do you blame us? And what about what you've done to us? Argued the demon representatives. After billion years of suppression, you've killed more of our race than the Golden Ape Emperor ever could. Our actions are only to prevent history to repeat itself. You demons should be glad we did not exterminate your race from this world. Alright, stop before things escalate, Wang Wei stated. In this kind of argument, his status as the perfect son of an era played its role. I need all of you to start thinking and see things on a much larger scale, to go beyond the scope of the Myriad Emperor world and take into account the entire endless void. Everyone listened to him, waiting for him to finish talking. If you analyze the information from Gu Shen's trial, it's easy to notice that too many geniuses that would be described as era-suppressing have appeared in the lower dimension. It's almost as if a glorious age has occurred in many world communities. And what is the role of a glorious age? To cultivate eternal emperors. Exactly. In this generation, there is a high chance that more than a dozen eternal emperors will appear from the 3,000 world community. You can imagine how complicated things would be if these people decided to give a devastating blow to the myriad emperor world and prevent our development. Wang Wei then looked at the demon race representative. I will be direct. Your demon race is a potential problem. Your resentment for the human race can easily be exploited, leading to your betrayal. We would never do this. The myriad emperor world is as much our home as it is yours, humans, argued the Golden Rock chief. Maybe so, but it does not change my statement, continued Wang Wei. Eradicating your race is one solution to this problem. But I would like to avoid the price suffered in the process. So, here is my solution to deal with this problem. I will hand the sword to you. And the Dao opening sect will begin doing business with the northern continent, using the fox race as a proxy. I hope to slowly mend our relationship with this method. He then looked at the others. I hope some of you can follow in our steps. Wang Wei needed to rally the entire world's power after proving the Dao. So, it was in his best interest to form alliances with all races. As for the Demon Destiny sword, he will take it back later. By then, since he will also take the other races' swords, the demon race cannot complain. It will also help if they have cultivated a good relationship by then. The other participants pondered their next steps. An alliance with the demon race was not worth it. The northern continent was barren with few truly valuable resources, besides the demon race itself. Regarding the few rare resources they had, the emperor lineages could plunder or buy them at a meager price because of exploitation. Allying with them will be one-sided, with their factions having to help the demon race. Furthermore, many of these factions hated or had a prejudice against the demon race. Some of the immortal insurgent presence lived during the reign of the Golden Ape Emperor, making it even more challenging to ally with them. Nevertheless, they also understood they needed to remove their emotions from the equation, thinking about things from different angles. In what ways will the Dao opening sect benefit from an alliance with the demon race? Maybe not an increase in resources but an increase in influence and political power. After years of oppression, the demon race had no choice but to become a tight group by bonding, turning them into a powerful force considering all the different tribes. If the Dao opening sect allied with the demon race, it would give them too much political influence on the myriad emperor world. The Eternal Dream sect will always support our ally, said Sect Madame Tan Zichen. The Academy will also help our fellow demon race, commented Song Li. After him, many of the top emperor lineages like the Sword-Casting Villa, the Tai Profound Gate and the Yin Moon Palace, also agreed, just because they didn't want the Dao opening sect to increase its influence. Wang Wei nodded as if he did not care. These people had impure motives and would show up during their interaction with the demon race. Meanwhile, he was considering things from a higher point of view and genuinely wanted to cooperate with the demon race to ensure the success of his plans. On behalf of the demon race, we sincerely thank everyone present. The Golden Lion Chiefess remained composed as she knew these people might be only words. She would not have any hope until she saw fundamental changes in the northern continent. Since we have come to an agreement, let's discuss the issue of resources, stated Wang Wei. Compromise, gift bonus chapter? Thanks to SimCity Chabs for the gift. I still think this is not a good idea. Everyone looked at the person who suddenly destroyed the momentum of this assembly, and it was an insurgent from the Origin Rune Palace. Our actions are based on the premise that other planes will attack or intervene in our world. But nothing has happened yet, so why the need to act? Explained Formation 1. Everyone looked at him, wondering why he would disagree with something that was obviously beneficial to the entire world. Some people speculated it was something to do with the resource discussion since it would take an extremely high amount of resources to keep these formations activated until the heaven will battle. These people's speculations were correct. Formation 1 knew the Origin Rune Palace was in a precarious situation. As the founder of Array Dao in the Myriad Emperor world, they had a high status and respect. Unfortunately, it did not change the fact their sect only had 2 great emperors. So, regarding resource allocations, he feared being treated as one of the top emperor lineages with 5 or more emperors. Your objection means nothing since the majority has agreed, announced Wang Wei. The juniors in this generation seem to have massive egos, replied Formation 1. Wang Wei was calm while everyone watched with intrigue, waiting for his response. Do you want a beating? Asked Origin 1 with a fierce light in his eyes. If you do, I won't hesitate to break into your sect and give you. Formation 1 almost choked with anger after hearing this. He took a deep breath to calm down. Does your Dao opening sect want to use its power to force people? I've made a good point and am sure some people feel the same way. It's not about using our power, rebutted Origin 1. It's about not giving the title of sect master of our sect any respect. So watch your words and tone. Fine, I admit I went out of line, admitted Formation 1. But my point is valid. Nothing has yet to occur and we might be overreacting. It's fine if you don't want to participate, Wang Wei interjected. Your sect will not be included in the protection area of the formation. He then addressed everyone else. The same goes for all of you. If you don't want to participate, it's fine with me. As the holder of the Human Destiny Sword, I can activate the array only to protect the Dao Opening Sect when dangers arrive on our doorstep. That's not how the array works, rebutted Formation 1. It's connected to the luck of the human race and must protect us humans, not the Dao Opening Sect. He had lived through the rise of the Great Qin Dynasty and the creation of the array. I can still make the Dao Opening Sect the array's center. Furthermore, I can use my title as a son of an era to convince Heavenly Dao and the array that anyone who voted against this assembly is detrimental to the safety of the human race and not worth its protection. Can the era son do this? No one knew for sure. A few appear throughout the world's history, but none were complete son of era, where Heavenly Dao gave them all destinies without any competition. It would be pointless for some of us not to participate. That would be counterproductive to our objectives, commented the Five Elements Palace sect leader. If the array did not protect some factions, the foreign threats could use them to enter the Myriad Emperor world. Sect Master Wang Wei, you must have considered the issue of resources allocations? He continued asking. I have, replied Wang Wei before sending them a spreadsheet analyzing the resources each faction needs to pay to maintain the formation. The number is based on the amount of territory you occupied and the publicly available business or resource gathering spots that each of factions has. The number appeared a little high. As I said, it's only an estimate based on the resources you publicly display. If you consider the hidden ones, it's nothing much. No faction would publicly display all its wealth and resources. And taking into account that the burden will be shared with so many people, it is not much in the grand scheme of things. I only have some issues with the demon and sea race, continued Wang Wei. I know the demon don't have many resources despite having such large domains. So, the Dao Opening Sect will help you bear the burden until our cooperation bears fruit and you can stand on your own. We will gladly accept your aid, said the Golden Lion Chiefess. And we promise to one day repay the Dao Opening Sect. That's fine. Wang Wei knew the demon race still had pride and accepted their promise of repaying him. Anyway, he would not refuse to get his money back. Furthermore, he understood he needed to give them a certain autonomy or dignity to ensure a proper alliance between the two factions. As for the sea race, it was hard for me to get a good overview of your finances. So, you might have to modify it amongst yourselves. The sleepers did not pay much attention to the sea race like everybody else. So, even after taking over their operation, Wang Wei was still lacking compared to the surface world. Wouldn't it be better for each race to be responsible for their arrays? Finally spoke the Tengxi matriarch. Indeed, agreed the representative from the Myriad Spirit Mountain, the most powerful spirit race faction of the Myriad Emperor world with 5 great emperors. They only had accepted members of the spirit race in their sect. The spirit race had the lowest population, and if they only paid for their race's array, it would be cheaper for them. So they agreed with this statement. I've considered this. But if that were done, it would result in us humans paying too much and the demons not being able to pay at all. And what's wrong with that? Asked the Panlong Patriarch. To prevent resentment and inability for the assembly to succeed. So, the best method is to consider the cost of all the arrays. That way we are paying for the other race's array and we are paying for yours. It's all about compromise. Even after Wang Wei said these words, the meeting did not immediately end. A few factions began negotiating the price they needed to pay, resulting in more people arguing. Ultimately, the assembly took another month of ongoing discussion before everyone reached a satisfactory conclusion. Even then, the sea race asked for more time to figure things out and deal with the issue of their arrays. However, they only had 2 weeks at Wang Wei's insistence and pressure from the human race. The Origin Rune Palace also had to pay more than they were willing. And the main reason was their sect often used their status to occupy resources that their overall strength should not be able to hold. The devil cultivators in the west tried to cause some problems during the negotiation. But the D clan placed their foot down and even threatened Emperor Dao War to eradicate and suppress as many of them as possible. Besides the Dao Opening Sect, their factions had the highest stake in this assembly. With D Tian, They had the highest chance of winning the Heaven-Will battle in this generation and did not want anything to intervene. Finally, everything proceeded smoothly and the assembly ended. "Phew," exhaled Wang Wei out loud. "You did a great job. You knew when to compromise, take a loss, and be firm. Basic diplomatic tactics. You are like Qiyuan when he was young. He always believes in talking first before using force. In fact, it was one of his flaws in his early years. Luckily, the Sword Empress and Battle Baniac were with him. They would act as his iron fist when he hesitated to take action." "They seem like the perfect trio," commented Wang Wei. "Indeed. Qiyuan can be too passive. Sword Empress was too aggressive, and Battle Maniac was the voice of reason, the perfect balance between the two," added Origin 1 as he reminisced on the past. "I must warn you," said Origin 1 after regaining his bearing. "I understand your plans require you to have some level of objectiveness and fairness for all races and factions. But you must remember you're from the Dao Opening sect." "I know. Plus I only need to appear fair. But the sect will always be my main priority. As long as you understand. I know it might be annoying to be constantly nagged by us old man. But our wisdom and cautiousness are the most valuable things we have to offer." Wang Wei nodded, as he would never dismiss the advice of someone who has lived so much longer than him and experienced so many things. So, after briefly chatting and reassuring Origin 1, he contacted the demon race to finalize their cooperation. Immortal Mansion. Wang Wei activated the formation to open communication with the demon race on the Black Tortoise Northern Continent. "Sect Master, when are you sending the sword?" asked the Black Tiger Chief, trying to control his voice and hide his worries. "Right now," replied Wang Wei. He used his Sect Master token to control the sect's surrounding space before opening a tear in the void and sending the sword into the Northern Continent, close to the primary habitat of one of the main tribes. The demon race sensed these actions and sent someone to fetch the sword. They also had their few remaining insurgent to check and ensure nothing was wrong with it. "Thank you," said the Golden Lion Chiefess with great sincerity. She honestly thought this process would be more difficult, and the Dao Opening sect would delay the process as much as possible while levying the sword to benefit them and further exploit the demon race. And part of her believed the sword might not be returned, that the sect master was only saying these words for the sake of the assembly. "I'm only fulfilling my part of the agreement," replied Wang Wei. "Now, let's discuss the gritty detail of our alliance." The discussion took little time. The alliance mainly involved the demon race using the power or name of the Dao Opening sect. When dealing or trading resources with other factions, they can use their name or influence to prevent others from exploiting them. They can use the name to prevent others from occupying rare resource mines on the Northern Continent, plundering it before leaving it barren. They can use the sect's name to prevent others from draining most of the spirit chi from the Northern Continent and even use some measures to alleviate the situation. The alliance's essence is to target the root of the demon's race decline, and to ensure their prosperity and establish good feelings with the demon race. Wang Wei even promised the sect would send powerful cultivators to help them reinforce these new changes, since he knew many factions would openly agree while sabotaging the alliance from the shadow. "I have to say I was surprised, Sect Master Wang Wei," commented the chiefess. "It seems you genuinely want to ally with our race. The prosperity of the demon race will benefit the entire world. Once he returns the environment to its innate chi space, the demons will have a resurgence because many of them have some innate lifeform's bloodline mixed with their lineage. And by absorbing innate chi, these demons will have a higher chance of activating these hidden bloodlines. One of his objectives is to ensure some level of peace and harmony between the races and factions. If you don't mind, I have a request," said the Golden Lion Chiefess, making Wang Wei frown slightly. "Do say. We would like control of the demon school Chi Luck. Over the past 10,000 years, she has witnessed the benefit and horror of the school. The humans continue to preach to animals to awaken their intelligence and become low-level demons or demonic beasts. This act resulted in many factions increasing their military power through a large army of demons. However, this was only the beginning. These factions forced these low-level demons to fight and consume each other as cultivation. That way, they did not have to use too many resources to cultivate an individual demon. The increase in demonic population in the other 4 continents has drastically boosted all professions in the world. Demonic beasts' bodies are one of the primary ingredients for many pills, arrays, weapons, and talismans. Talismans benefited the most since they required papers with spiritual chi to engrave runes, and demon race skins were the perfect materials. The herd-raising valley's business took a big hit as they lost overwhelming control of the demonic beast market. Most factions do not have to rely on their services since they can use their school to raise and educate demonic beasts, ensuring their loyalty. No, replied Wang Wei, his tone very firm. Just like the academy control the concept of academy for your demon race, our sect must also control all aspects, including other races like the sea race. Wang Wei never liked that each race could create its own school concept by copying his idea. He felt Heavenly Tao should change the order of the world to prevent copyright infringement. As such, after creating the idea, he also followed so for all the other races to ensure their sect had sole control of the luck. I figure as much, replied the Golden Lion Chiefess. In that case, how about returning the Fox clan to us? Wang Wei did not immediately answer as he pondered. The Nine-Tail Fox clan has been on his mind lately. Once his plans are accomplished, the Wang, Li and Yin clans will increase their number of emperors, thus shifting the already tilted power dynamic of the sect. So, he wanted to find a way to make up the power of the sectarian side. His first plan was to introduce the Fox clan into their factions. The two together would increase their chances of cultivating great emperors. However, he feared once the Fox clan had cultivated an emperor, they would become the fourth faction of the sect instead of supporting the sectarian section. Their racial identity made it easy for this possibility. 3 factions controlling the sect is fine since they can use the majority to decide significant events. But a fourth will result in complications if they cannot decide on a majority. I understand why you want their return, added Wang Wei. Emperor bloodlines are very important to the demon race. After a great emperor proved the Tao, their entire race's bloodline will also benefit. It is the same for humans, but it is not as apparent for them because the benefit of great emperors manifests more in the luck of their sects or clans. However, the current situation is the result of your poor management. If you want them to return, communicate with the Fox matriarch and convince her. The chiefess sighed as she knew this was unlikely to succeed. Their tribe treated the Fox clan poorly, to the point they saw no choice but to defect to the human race. I will try. Wang Wei nodded but did not continue the topic. After signing the alliance agreement, he ended the conversation. Have you decided what to do with the Fox clan? Asked Origin 1. No, but am leaning toward making them die-hard allies like the Eternal Dream sect. Are you not worried they would return to the demon race? I know they will return. But only after cultivating a great emperor. Before them, we only need to support them to the best of our capabilities. And generations later we will have a solid ally when they succeed. It's good you are thinking long-term. Origin 1 knew it was rare for young people like Wang Wei, who only has lived about 100,000 years, to consider things in terms of generations. I suddenly remember, did we ever find someone to cultivate the dragon sovereign chi? Yes. Was it another immortal venerable? No, it was one of the sealed quasi-emperor. He fit perfectly with the chi. Can mortal refine immortal chi on their own? Is there a difference between an immortal doing it or even with a great emperor's help? Yes, replied Origin 1. The core issue is the immortal mansion. Immortal venerables require it to produce more chi by converting it from outside energy sources like spiritual chi. The problem with mortals refining immortal chi is that they usually have to rely on a single string to create their immortal mansion, a process that requires a ton of time. Then, they must consider whether their bodies are strong enough to bear the power of the immortal mansion or whether their soul is strong enough to control it. After all of these issues, they have to survive immortal tribulations, explained Origin 1, who paused to gather his thoughts. If an immortal venerable refine a new chi, they only need to fine-tune their immortal mansion to adapt to the new chi and ensure they understand it enough to control. As for great emperors, they can refine the immortal mansion that is best suited for someone, ensuring a higher success rate of quality, which dictates the leaf strength of immortal venerables. Wang Wei understood his meaning. The higher the purity of a chi, the higher the leaf strength of the immortal venerable. In other words, immortal mansions refined by great emperors granted cultivators a higher chance of becoming a 9-leaf immortal venerable. Is there any way to accelerate the process? Wang Wei asked. Yes. We can use immortal, Tao, and even innate resources to help create immortal mansions. So, that's the real purpose of innate resources. Correct. They are wasted when used on mortals. Innate resources can help increase chi, help with grand Tao source comprehension, and are overall better suited for immortal tier powerhouses to use. Wang Wei agreed with this statement. Innate and chaos treasures are popular amongst heaven chosens because they can better boost their strength than emperor treasures. which are difficult to use. He said goodbye to Origin 1 before leaving. Li Jun and Liling is back? I'll go see them. Northern Black Tortoise Continent, Demon Race Tribal Alliance. After the meeting, the chiefs and chieftess looked at someone that did not show up but witnessed everything. Nevertheless, everyone present seems to have a sense of awe and reverence for him. What do you think? Aoshin, Gift Bonus Chapter. Thanks to SimCity Chabs for the gift. He's planning something, replied Aoshin. And it's something major, something that will take into account the entire world. Heavenly Tao has some hint of what it is, and it approves of his actions. That would explain why he was chosen as a complete son of Era. But what roles does our demon race plays in his plan? I don't know. But it seems to require harmony between races, continued Aoshin. In that case, how do we treat the alliance? Asked the Golden Lion Chieftess. Aoshin did not immediately answer, pondering about his race's future. The time spent in the martial hegemony world has benefited him immensely. Upon arrival he had to learn to hide and become quite good at it. But eventually his identity was revealed and he was forced to run away. While constantly running away and surviving, Aoshin became more powerful, cunning, calm, cautious, analytical, and ruthless. These traits allowed him to survive along with the good faith of one emperor lineage that shielded him without asking for anything in return. He also received countless fortunate encounters. So far, the alliance appears to be favorable to us. However, you have to make sure to alleviate the resentment of some of our members. Aoshin knew many tribes would not accept humans' aid. After billions of years of suffering, many clan members want nothing but revenge. They want to dominate the myriad emperor world and make the other races suffer the same fate. In his early years, Aoshin felt the same as these people. But as he grew up and learned more about the world's truth, he understood how difficult this task was. Only an eternal emperor on par with Empress Wu and the absolute beginning emperor could achieve the goal of these demon races. However, there are other problems to consider. If he overthrew the human race as the protagonist of the myriad emperor world, the founders of the most powerful factions might intervene. Aoshin learned the true foundations of these sects are the people who have ascended and achieved higher realms in the upper dimension. These people would never allow the destruction of their factions or the enslavement of the human race. Aoshin became depressed after figuring out this truth. And a few hundred years ago, when he learned about the closure of the lower dimension, he thought his plan might work. However, his cautious nature made him analyze things thoroughly and realize he would suffer the one suffering consequences if he annihilated the human race. These founders and previous emperors would never allow him to survive in the upper dimension. And Aoshin eliminated the possibility of hiding in the lower dimension since he wanted to continue his cultivation journey. After mulling over the situation, Aoshin realized that he needed to change his primary objective and not let hatred cloud his judgment. After becoming an eternal emperor, his goal should be to lead the demon race to prosperity and rival the other factions. He needed to take this rare opportunity of an upcoming era to ensure that the demon race dominated that era. And after years of prosperity, the demon race can rejuvenate itself and become one of the most potent factions in this world. I'm worried about them too, commented the Black Tiger Chief. Hatred ran deep in many tribe members and they could affect this alliance. I will talk and explain the situation to them, said Aoshin. But if they cannot control themselves for the overall betterment of the demon race, we will eradicate them. Is this necessary? I've already explained the entire situation to all of you. So, you should understand that hatred is detrimental to our future. We do understand. But you cannot expect many of us to suddenly forgive the humans. I don't expect you to. I just want you to be able to control your hatred and not let it affect the general situation, explained Aoshin. Our demon race is so close to liberation. I don't want anything to affect us, especially our own kind. You're right. I will try to appease them, said the Golden Lion Chieftess. Good. What about the cultivation technique I gave you? How are things proceeding? Not very good. Our race is not very good at adapting to new things. Aoshin frowned. One of the main reasons the demon race has become so weak is that humans exploited this weakness. They destroyed most of the race's knowledge and cultivation techniques. Most demons have to rely purely on absorbing spiritual chi to nourish their bloodline. That's all many people use for their cultivation. The cultivation method is so basic and rudimentary. Emperor bloodline tribes can use this method to reach the quasi-emperor realm. However, cultivation is extremely difficult for other tribes with lesser bloodlines. Aoshin knew the demon race's inheritance was not completely gone. Tribes like Golden Lion, Black Tiger, Golden Rock, and others have some inheritance remaining. These inheritances included ways to temper bloodlines and techniques that allowed them to use their bloodline to create domain or blood dharma. Using these inheritances, years of trials and errors and a touch of fortune, they finally had one bloodline achieve atavism, resulting in the creation of Ao Shin, an innate dragon. Unfortunately, these tribes are adamant about keeping their inheritance amongst themselves and don't want to share it for the demon race's advancement and prosperity. Ao Shin concluded the tribal system itself was one of the reasons for the demon race's current decline. So, he wanted to change things. He created a new cultivation system after analyzing the martial hegemony world's martial arts system, the origin system, and the bloodline inheritance he received from his innate dragon bloodline. Ao Shin had his world views opened after experiencing life in another world community. He realized it was wrong for the demon race to rely too heavily on its bloodline. Because of the inherent designs and culture of the race, bloodline will inevitably be their primary form of cultivation. But they should not rely entirely on it. Ao Shin designed his cultivation method to involve the soul, Tao heart tempering and law comprehension. Bloodlines have the natural ability to temper the body, but he optimized this ability based on his martial art understanding. He created a stage where the demon could fuse their laws into their bloodline to pass them down. Then, the next generation can use these laws to cast divine abilities and comprehend laws, but they cannot over-rely on them. They have to understand their own laws, fuse it with their bloodlines and repeat the process from one generation after another, ensuring the prosperity and development of every tribe. You need to be more active on this task, said Ao Shin with seriousness. If our demon race wants to rise, everyone has to work together and put in the effort. This cultivation system, although still flawed, will greatly benefit our race. It is a path of change or evolution. We will try to follow by example. The elders understood one of the core differences between humans and demons was their conservative nature and aversion to change. Humans by nature like to evolve and change. It's in their blood to evolve and adapt since it was the only way to survive in ancient times. However, after settling down and becoming the dominant race of this world, humans became conservative because of their culture and customs. By following their ancestors' words as if they were laws, they became conservative and less susceptible to change. The only time they will change is for their survival, for interest. But that's usually temporary, or when an authoritative figure, great emperor, sets a precedent for their entire race. Meanwhile, the demon race's conservatism is ingrained in their blood. They refuse to change the status quo. Even if a great emperor set a precedent for the race, the demon race might stop after a few generations if nothing is done. I need to see results before the heaven will battle, said Ao Shin in a severe tone. The spread of this cultivation system was vital to him for another reason besides the benefit of his race. During his journey, Ao Shin fused the marital hegemony world's martial arts system with the origin system, granting him the power of the Dui realm and almost dying in the process. Fascinated, he learned more about this power when encountering orthodox and unorthodox methods. Then, he thought of trying to see what would happen if he used both methods. He wanted to know what would happen if he created and spread a cultivation system to the demon race and had a clone receive the benefit. Then, he would fuse it with his current body that already had Dui realm. Although this method might fail, it was worth trying, he thought before dismissing everybody and returning to his cultivation seclusion. Ao Shin took out a golden light of merit that floated in his palm. Hopefully this is enough for the heaven path tribulation, he muttered. Heaven path tribulation. Ao Shin was a careful man since he had to. As such, he was unwilling to lay all his eggs in one basket. He had to plan for the possibility of failing to prove the Tao, leaving himself a way out. By searching through his innate bloodline, he found the answer, the heaven path tribulation. Innate lifeforms are very hierarchical. Often, the rank in which they are born determines their status. A dragon born with the power of Saint Realm will have a higher position than one taken with the void-shattering realm. However, they can still cultivate and improve. Moreover, innate lifeforms had to evolve and change to survive against acquired lifeforms during the ancient war. And the main reason for their strength was the heaven path tribulation, which allowed Tier 9 innate lifeforms to enter Tier 10, on par with great emperors. After the tribulations, true heavenly Tao will bless their innate laws, allowing them to compete with the great emperor's grand Tao source. The Tier 10 innate lifeforms are called primarchs and are divided into 6 stars. The first star is equivalent to Immortal Venerable, the second star equals Tao Ancestors, the 3 stars were on par with third-class Great Emperors, and the 6 stars equal eternal emperors. The appearance of the Heaven Path tribulation provided innate life forms the advantage in the war, but it was only a brief one. With their ingenuity, humans quickly discovered that after transferring innate bloodlines into their bodies and developing them to the point of awakening innate laws, they could also undergo tribulation and become primarchs. The only downside was the tribulation was 100 to 1,000 times more difficult for them, but that did not stop many people. Ao Shen learned that Heavenly Tao would not prevent him from participating in the Heaven Will Bat because of his identity. However, if he wanted to participate in the tribulation after the battle, he needed to pay the price, hence why he gathered the merit. He plans to become a 6-star Primarch if he fails to prove the Tao. Then he will protect the demon race in the upcoming era. After a while, he will refine his body and power into a race-protecting treasure for the demon race before going into reincarnation and trying again. Ao Shen's ambition is to be an eternal emperor since it is the best path of cultivation. Once a Primarch left their chaos world, they would be as weak a chicken before an emperor, unless they can turn their innate laws into primordial laws or cultivate a body on par with fiend gods. He did not want to spend his entire life limited by the chaos world, nor did he know how to transfer his innate law into primordial law. The best course of action is to walk the emperor path. Ao Shen placed the merit away, thinking about how he could gather more since he did not know whether it was enough. The demon race needs a better intelligence agency. He realized how little information he could gather with the current system, which was dangerous since he knew little about his competitors. Therefore, he decided to take this matter seriously and oversee the process himself. Central Continent, Emperor Enlightening Academy. Headmaster Song Li ended the conference call with a pondering look. Maybe her decision is correct. His mind traveled 300 years ago after the deception trial. Su Shi asked for a meeting with the Academy's upper echelons. I want to prove the Tao in another world community. No one responded to her because of the shock of this sudden news. Su Shi, do you know what you are saying? Asked Song Li after regaining his composure. Proving the Tao in another world will mean you are now a foreigner. Even if you leave your inheritance to the Academy, we won't receive any luck or destiny. Su Shi was aware of the consequences since her actions were frowned upon. After becoming an emperor, even if she left her artifact, scripture, array and other resources for the sect, she would technically not count as the Academy's emperor since they would receive no luck or destiny. Even if she preached the Tao in the myriad emperor world, there would be no benefit since she is a foreign emperor. I understand the consequences, she explained. But after the trial, I realized my chances of winning the final battle were slim. And I cannot afford to lose. The elders were quiet as they knew about the trial. They were once excited about their heaven chosen breaking the barrier between mortals and immortals. But then they soon learned that all the other participants from the myriad emperor world did the same. And Wang Wei even achieved 6-leaf strength, and there was the possibility this level was not the limit of his power. I am sure we can find another method, commented a teacher. Or, we can still wait for another generation. Many people favored Su Shi over Lin Fan because she inherited all his positive qualities, not the bad ones like his lust. The only issue they had was her obsession with reviving him. However, as long as she could rein it a little, it would be the perfect driving force without interfering with her cultivation. There is always another way, chimed another teacher. They did not want to lose the opportunity to become a sect with 2 eternal emperors. And with Su Shi's talent, she would definitely become an eternal emperor. For more chapters, please visit pan0v. My husband's existence was affected when he died, so he cannot wait too long before I can revive him. To reconstruct his existence, I need to become an eternal emperor in this generation. Song Li frowned as he knew that existence reconstruction was not something any eternal emperor could do. But that was not the main issue. You know, Heavenly Tao will not allow foreigners to access their world imprints? Every living being has an imprint based on the world they are born. It is that imprint that identifies them as citizens of a world. The identity token that allows foreigners to participate in another world's heaven will battle worked on the imprint. And sometimes, when reviving someone from the dead, the imprint is necessary as in the case of Lin Fan. I'm fully aware. But I can find another method or make a deal with the myriad emperor world's emperor to help. No one said a word as they could see she had made up her mind. Her obsession with reviving Lin Fan had finally reached an uncontrollable point. A new era of change, prosperity and conflict is coming, stated Su Shi calmly. It would be best if the Academy has a great emperor representing them in that era, especially if the final victor is from the Tao opening sect. She had a point. After the heaven-chosen trials ordeal, Wang Wei displayed no animosity toward the academy besides the surface competition of the world's supposedly two most powerful factions. However, all that could be a mask. "Give us some time to think about it," said Song Li, and Su Shi did not insist. After the conference, Song Li began to think her approach was correct. With recent events, it's apparent the Dao opening sect has grand plans for the upcoming era, most likely to be the leader. And if the academy does not want to cease to exist, certain sacrifices must be made. Song Li knew he had a genuine reason to be worried. The birth of most emperors had relatively little effect on the top emperor lineages since they posed no threat to them. They only have to worry about pseudo-eternal emperors because the latter can use guerrilla tactics to slowly eat these factions before destroying them. However, eternal emperors are different. No single faction can face them in the current era with no immortal sovereign. If one wanted to destroy any factions, including the Dao opening sect, no one could stop them. After pondering for a moment, Song Li called for a meeting with the ancestors. He could not easily make such a decision and needed guidance. After a lengthy discussion, they concluded Su Shi's method was the best, despite the consequences. "What about the previous plan?" asked Song Li. "Should we continue? If it goes well, she will thank us. However, if it fails, it might result in her not even acknowledging us as her faction," replied Academy 1, the insurgent cultivated by Emperor Kong. The fact Su Shi became the Academy's heaven-chosen midway caused some trouble regarding her loyalty and belonging to the faction. Luckily, with Lin Fan as a medium, the Academy solved the problem. However, her recent decision has again caused some cracks in the relationship. And if this plan fails, the damages will be unrepairable. So, is it worth the risk? That's for you to decide. Song Li was speechless. He came here for guidance, not for him only to bear the burden of this choice. He exhaled out loud before being firmed. "Let's do it." He took out a talisman to contact someone. "Su Guan, you can do it." Learning experience. Su Guan sat in a room with his daughter, sweating all over his head and body. He took a cloth to wipe the sweat on his face before setting up the table. "You need to lose weight," commented Su Shi. "How can a cultivator be fat? That is a sign of prosperity." "Anyway, it does not affect my health or combat ability," rebutted Su Guan, and he was telling the truth. Unless by choice, preference, or a weird physique, most cultivators are fit because fat is considered an impurity of the body and will be dispelled through the process of cultivation. Nevertheless, some cultivators enjoy looking plump and choose this way as an aesthetic. "So, what brings you to see me?" asked Su Shi, deciding not to interfere in her father's choice. "Do I need a reason to come see my daughter?" "True." Su Guan nodded before taking out something from his space ring and handing it to her. She was surprised as she had never seen something like this, despite her wealth of knowledge. "What is it? Some kind of shoes?" "It's called a heel. About a month ago, the Dao opening sect began to sell this new and strange footwear. The popularity has reached the point that it's gotten to my radar." "They looked beautiful," praised Su Shi before trying them on. "Comfortable too. That's what all the women who tried it said," stated Su Guan. "According to our commerce's predictions, this industry will soon become another staple business for their sect." Su Guan sighed out loud. Why do these powerful sects keep getting richer? Shouldn't they have enough? They could leave some opportunity for us peasants to struggle. Su Shi ignored her father's complaints. The Association of Chamber of Commerce is one of the most wealthy factions of the Myriad Emperor world, ranking top 100. They have not gone up in the ranking because their most potent backing is a third-class strength insurgent. And the fact they can keep such considerable wealth without trouble is proof of their diplomatic abilities and the connection they've made with different factions. "Are you going to sell knockoffs of these shoes?" asked Su Shi. "If you are, you should be careful of the Dao opening sect's reaction. The original plan was to create a cheap knockoff and sell it in the black market through the unaffiliated business of the association," replied Su Guan before gritting his teeth. However, the plan hadn't even started before ending. "Did they warn you?" she asked, slightly surprised. "When it comes to products such as this one that can be easily copied, most factions will ignore copies as long as they control the primary market." "They didn't have to," replied Su Guan, his pouting face somewhat made him adorable. "Someone placed a powerful curse on the very concept of the heel. The knockoffs will spontaneously catch fire if someone else tries to sell it before self-destructing. This must be quite the unique curse," analyzed Su Shi. "If they are willing to go such extreme for this product, then you shouldn't get into this business. I know this. I'm worried other people will begin using similar methods for other products. You don't have to worry much. How many people do you know can use such a curse? Even if any faction spent years cultivating a curse master, they might not reach that level, reassured Su Shi. She then took out the heels and admired how beautiful the design was. Then she frowned. I know. Su Guan was aware of this. But he has a business intuition that this method of protecting discoveries or inventions will become more regular in the future. And if that's the case, the association's commerce will be significantly affected. Have you noticed? He asked. Yes. The material on these shoes is terrible. Even if I refined them and added more runes, they would only last a few decades. It's done on purpose. To sell more shoes, she instantly realized. Yes. They designed the products to last a specific time, forcing people to come back and buy more. Quite the ingenious tactic, elaborated Su Guan with glistening eyes. The shoes are even designed to self-destruct if someone tries to modify them. According to tests done by the association, only the best artifact refiners have the skills to temper with these shoes. However, the material use still limits them. Truly ingenious, muttered Su Shi as she knew who was responsible for this product and all these tactics. She has secretly infiltrated the Dao opening sect's domain, and she was genuinely shocked by the experience. It was like a completely different place from the rest of the world. The mortal had created a civilization entirely based on puppetry and constructs. They were educated, healthy, well-fed, and generally happy. Cultivators and mortals lived together in harmony. Su Shi was greatly surprised by what she saw. The amount of luck the mortals could provide the Dao opening sect because of their excellent reputation was at least 5 times more than any other sect with the same population. After that visit, she returned to the sect to analyze the root of this vast difference. Su Shi discovered it was the result of the schools and constructs. After the schools stopped providing other factions with luck, they all stopped and ignored them. The same happened for the constructs. Once the benefit stopped, they returned to the old ways. For more chapters, please visit pan0v.com, but not the Dao opening sect. They persevered to the point of allowing the mortals to create another civilization besides cultivation. A civilization with them as the core. Immediately afterward, she used her power as the next headmaster to copy their model. However, Su Shi discovered the main thing preventing her from reaching the same success level as the Dao opening sect is the inability of the academy's students and teachers to look at mortals with equality. Wang Wei faced the same problem in the early development of the sect's domain, but used his status to persevere, hence today's result. And this has been Su Shi's plan as well, but there hasn't been any result yet. But she now feared after leaving the academy, things would return to their original state. Enough business talk, said Su Guan. Let's enjoy our father-daughter time. He served her some unique tea he had recently received. Moments like this made me wish your mother was still here, sighed Su Guan. She would have been proud of your achievements. Maybe, replied Su Shi. Her mother died after giving birth, so one of her father's many concubines raised her. She did not know her mother, but the concubine treated her like her own. So, Su Shi never lacked motherly love since she always had a mother. Suddenly she felt something was wrong, and before she could react, she fainted on the floor. And not long afterward, a bunch of teachers from the academy appeared in her room. She will be fine, right? Asked Su Guan. You don't have to worry, said Song Li. We will only place her in a powerful illusion where she can experience Lin Fan's life from a third-party perspective. Our objective is to see that although he loved her, it was not to the point where she needed to be obsessed with reviving him. Will it work? It depends on her, whether she is willing to accept this fact. Su Guan sighed as he was out of ideas. He tried to talk to her many times about this subject but would be rejected every time. And one time he tried to involve her mother and she almost stopped talking to him because of it. As a last result, he had to rely on the academy's extreme method. Shire, I'm sorry. But this is for your own good. Su Guan not only cared about the prospect of his family once his daughter proved the Dao, but he genuinely wanted her to be happy. And Lin Fan has become a roadblock to that happiness. Moon, ancient aristocratic clans. Huafeng Huang opened her eyes, and the power of innate laws emanated from her body. She sensed someone outside her room and controlled the formations to allow entry. Pian Dan 0 Vel. C0M Father. How are things? Asked Huaru after saluting his daughter. I've awakened 3 innate laws, but the final fusion of all 5 bloodlines is not complete. Were there any issues with the primordial dragon's bloodline? No. I've absorbed his wood and thunder laws and fused them with my sovereign water law. The flame law. It was lost in the fusion process, Huo Fenghuang replied with some regret. You should be satisfied with 2 out of 3. Have you awakened bloodline memories? Not yet. I'm waiting for the final fusion. It's good to be prudent. Erase what happened in the assembly. Huoru handed her a talisman that summarized everything that had occurred. After reviewing the information, she frowned. Is this why he was chosen instead of me? Huo Fenghuang felt Heavenly Tao should have granted her some destiny in this new era because of her desire to change the world for the better. Now, after reviewing the assembly, she understood the reason: her biases. She favored the ancient clan too much, and her methods would break the balance of the world. So, I should learn from him? Do not give the ancient clan too much power, at least on the surface. Learn to compromise and even lose for the sake of the entire world. Huo Fenghuang squinted her eyes as she mulled over the future of her clan. Some changes needed to be made. Li Jun's encounter. Pan Dian 0 VL C M Origin Weapon Mountain. Xianxia ended the formation deep in thought. The past few years have not been kind to him. He did not show up in the early stages of this glorious age, waiting for the opportune time. During his time in hiding, Xianxia was confident he was par with all the other Heaven Chosens. His competition with Tong Ruobing was proof of his prowess. Unfortunately, everything changed after she encountered a man named Wu Ming. Xianxia did not know what she got from him. But after that encounter, she easily surpassed him, frustrating him beyond words. And things worsened when he encountered Heaven Chosens like Wang Wei, Feng Heng, Huo Fenghuang and others. He realized these people were in a class of their own, and his rival Tong Ruobing was now part of this class. Xianxia's ambition has always been to create the most powerful artifact in history, surpassing the all-encompassing mirror that the Refiner ancestor created. The mirror is, without a doubt, the most powerful artifact of the Myriad Emperor world, despite the Refiner ancestor being only a pseudo-eternal emperor. Xianxia wanted to create the most powerful artifact of the lower dimension, surpassing all artifacts in the lower dimension. And without proving the Tao and becoming an eternal emperor, he could not accomplish his goal. After sighing in desolation, Xianxia took out a booklet from his space ring, a pondering look deep in his eyes. 200 years ago, he received a fortunate encounter that could change his life. It was the inheritance from a foreign heaven world named Mechanized Puppet World. He did not know this inheritance was in the Myriad Emperor world, nor did he care. The cultivation system of that world involved created a puppet that is empty inside, and the cultivators can enter to control. The puppets are essentially operated armors. That's the best way Xianxia could describe them. Xianxia did not care for the novelty of this system. In his eyes, these puppets were nothing but well-crafted magical artifacts used in another system. Furthermore, he could see the flaw in this system: reliance on foreign aid. The cultivators who controlled the puppets were naturally weak, having only cultivated their spiritual power to control the puppets better and have the ability to create and update them. In the later stages of this system, cultivators can create law puppets, but they still have to summon their puppets from their sea of consciousness when needed for battle. If someone is fast enough, they can take advantage of this flaw. This issue is solved only after the heaven will battle. After proving the Tao, the cultivator will inherit their puppet's power, while the artifacts will become something similar to a proving Tao artifact. A technique considered forbidden in the mechanized puppet world allowed the cultivators to fuse with their mechanized puppets permanently, to eliminate the boundaries between flesh and metal, human and puppet, to eliminate the boundaries of self and tool. The moment Xianxia read about this technique, he thought about fusing with an Emperor-tier puppet. Of course, reasons told him that was impossible, but he still could do it for an Immortal Tier 1. However, this technique had a high failure rate and the consequence was worse than death. He previously rejected taking such risks. But now, as he watched his peers surpass him, as he sensed the upcoming era, he hesitated. Was the risk worth it? That's all he could think about. Xianxia spent the next few hours thinking to himself, asking not to be disturbed. Then he gritted his teeth as he made a decision. Tell the elders I'm going to the Refiner Paradise world. Xianxia believed that he had a higher chance of success if he refined the Immortal Tier puppet himself. And only in places like the Refiner Paradise world, where refining masters can prove the Tao only based on their skills, would grant him the skill to achieve such a feat. People reacted differently to the assembly. However, one consensus that every participant agreed upon: a new era of strife was upon the world, and the son of an era had a plan for that era. After finishing the negotiations, Wang Wei headed to Li Jun's mountain to meet the latter. It has been a while since they talked and interacted. After serving tea, the three reminisced about what had happened to them. Nothing exciting occurred for a while, explained Li Jun. After receiving the talisman from the ancestor, I went into retreat, even using the time formation. You must have gotten quite the result? Asked Wang Wei. Indeed. I realized how much I'd underused my physique. As long as you learn. Liling, what about you? A lot occurred. I received the ancestor's talisman right after the automatic cauldron succeeded in producing heaven-grade pills. And with what I learned, Saint pills won't be a problem. That's good news, nodded Wang Wei. What about the acquired source rune physique I mentioned? I've succeeded, she replied before raising her hand, displaying as it turned into a hand made of runes. I've turned all the cells in my body into runes as you suggested. But why do I feel you're not that excited? I am. It's just that pill refining talent also involved flame control, herbology, purification and runes. This physique has drastically elevated the runes aspect but only slightly affected the others. For more chapters, please visit Pan 0VL. The most significant benefit Yen Liling received from this physique is her talent for the other professions has been elevated, granting her the skill required for the automatic cauldron. I'm more excited about your force control skill. It has helped me a lot in my refining methods. That's good. What about the Dui realm? I've also succeeded. I've refined my divine sea into a spiritual herb garden. Yen Liling waved her hand to show inside her divine sea, where she planted various spiritual herbs. Her origin essence will nourish the herbs while some will produce spiritual qi similar to Wang Wei qi flow divine ability. Although it is only the first stage, I'm satisfied, she concluded. Wang Wei nodded before looking at Li Jun. Nothing yet, he replied, slightly embarrassed. It seems your cultivation talent is lacking a little, commented Wang Wei, and Li Jun agreed. His battle talent is on par with the likes of Feng Heng and other heaven chosen that have broken the boundary of mortal and immortal. However, his talent for cultivation, as in going through realms and comprehension, was lacking to them. This might help, stated Wang Wei as he took 2 small purple orbs, 2 strings of chaos qi? Yes. After close to 100,000 years, I've condensed these 2 from innate qi, commented Wang Wei. After spending more than 90,000 years listening to his ancestors preaching, his qi flower ability produced these 2 strings. Have one of the insurgent ancestors wash your body and soul with these qis. It should increase your cultivation talent. Li Jun was not hypocritical by rejecting something that he truly desired, especially since it came from his brother, so he calmly accepted the offer. I may have another way to help you, but I don't know if it will work. What is it? Wait until I know if it will work and I'll tell you. What's with all the mystery? Complained Li Jun before sipping his tea. I just don't want to give you false hope. Whatever. He could wait. Before I forget, announced Wang Wei. Don't forget to lend your talisman to the ancestors. It might be helpful to them. We were just thinking this, added Yen Liling. We've learned so much from the ancestors and hoped the entire sect would benefit. I'm sure they will. Wang Wei suspected the ancestors left something for the sect's insurgents. And when he started dealing with Origin 1 instead of Sword 1, he confirmed his theory. We also have something for you, said Li Jun before handing him a talisman containing a memory. Intrigued, Wang Wei activated it and saw a scene from a few days ago. Li Jun and Yen Liling were walking in a forest, traveling throughout the world while flirting with one another. The couple wanted to take this opportunity to have a vacation after spending so long not seeing each other. Then, out of nowhere, a flaming meteor came crashing from the sky, blocking their path. After the dust clouds blew out, a handsome young man dressed in flame-red robe appeared before them. He had soft skin and a noble and elegant aura naturally emanated from him. However, deep in his eyes was a very well-hidden cunningness. You're Li Jun and Yen Liling, correct? Wang Wei's guard dogs? Li Jun calmly looked at him before answering with a smile. We are. And whom might you be? Yang Wei. Am I supposed to know who that is? Continued Li Jun despite lying. He knew who this man was from the Fate Shadow Guards. From the Yang family, added Yang Wei, his eyes twitching slightly. Oh, you're the cheater Nine Sons Emperor's offspring. Li Jun versus Yang Wei. Cheating? Replied Yang Wei with a sneer. Anything goes for the final throne. It's not my father's fault your elders were stupid enough to fall for such a trick. What did you say? Yen Liling asked, triggered by this comment. No one can badmouth her elders. Li Jun placed his hand on her shoulder, calming her nerves. He was also mad since the Nine-Sun Emperor basically destroyed the Tao heart of his brother's grandfathers. That heaven will was wasted on your father. Any of our elders could have become pseudo-eternals and even eternals. But your father barely became a first class. All I'm hearing are excuses from sore losers. Okay, I don't want to waste time with you, countered Li Jun. Every second looking at your ugly face, I feel my lifespan rapidly shrink. Veins appeared on Yang Guowei's forehead. He had to admit this comeback was a good one. What do you want? Continued Li Jun. I want the deceiving heaven longevity art. And what does it have to do with us? Li Jun suddenly thought of something. You want to kidnap us to blackmail Big Brother Wang Wei? I guess you're not as stupid as you look. Interesting, commented Li Jun as he took out his spear. I haven't had a good fight in a while. He did not hesitate to deploy his domain, turning the surrounding into a world of crimson red, the same as his hair. Meanwhile, Yan Liling flew out of the boundaries of this confrontation. The same for me, replied Yang Guowei as he also deployed his domain, turning his surroundings into a world of white. Looking from above, these clashes looked like two circles, one red and the other white, clashing, trying to overwhelm the other. Let's test the water first, thought Li Jun as he waved his spear. Then an infinite number of weapons manifested in the sky. Spears, swords, sabers, halberds, axes, bows and others. Slaughter Dao includes weapon laws that are further divided into spear, sword, and saber laws on top of myriad other weapons. Yang Guowei calmly watched these infinite weapons descend upon him. He had no fear despite their powers to destroy countless middle thousand worlds. Numerous black circles appeared above him, and black holes came out from the circles. They easily swallowed the weapons. Then the black holes turned into a black cloud that spread throughout Li Jun's domain, turning his side from red to black. Darkness has contributed to numerous acts of slaughter, stated Li Jun as he quickly dispelled the power of darkness. Before humans discovered fire, too many people died because of the species' inability to see in the dark. Countless military tactics involved using the darkness to commit acts of slaughter. So, darkness was one of the weapons of darkness. Li Jun placed the tip of his spear on the ground. The earth turned gray, the color of death. An army of dead soldiers, ghosts and zombies rose from the soil. There were billions of dead, all ready to listen to their ruler's command. Li Jun took the battle maniac's advice and reforged his slaughter Dao. He included Yin law, judgment law, sovereign law, and a little bit of life and death, all in preparation for Wang Wei's plan. Of course, he only uses enough death law not to become an outlaw. As the Yin Legion rushed toward Yang Guowei, he activated the black holes to swallow them. Unfortunately, these soldiers were immune to the physical attacks of this black hole. And the devouring power of these black holes did not reach the conceptual level. Yang Guowei controlled the black circle to release a power associated with death and use it on the Legion. However, the attacks could only kill half the Legion, but Li Jun could also create an infinite number of the same amount that he could kill, making his attempt futile. So he chose another tactic. The black circles turned red before releasing 9 suns. Then, pure yang flames emanated from each sun, evaporating the undead Legion into ashes. Black represents darkness and death and is also a color associated with black holes. Meanwhile, fire is always associated with the color red. A chromatic Dao analyzed Li Jun. He immediately could tell his opponent would be a versatile fighter since colors are associated with many things, some with physical things and others with concepts. Furthermore, colors are often associated with emotions, so Li Jun immediately prepared for this possibility. He used a new technique he learned called primordial spirit projection. Another illusory primordial spirit split from the one in his sea of consciousness. All spiritual attacks, including emotional control, will be directed at the projection, protecting the main one. Additionally, Li Jun can use this method to detect unnoticeable spiritual attacks like secretly affecting his emotions. As soon as he used this technique, he saw a slight red flash in the projection's eyes. Excitement? He wants me too excited and become careless? Analyzed Li Jun. Let's get serious. Death Judgment. A scale appeared in the sky with the words life and death on each side / then, it tilted to the death side. A brilliant golden light descended from the heavens, headed directly toward Yang Guowei with incredible speed. For more chapters, please visit pan0v.l. Luckily, his white domain turned orange, representing slowness and drastically reducing the attack speed. In addition to the time spent destroying the red suns, Yang Guowei finally reduced the attack speed to a point where he could react. 2 circles appeared above his head. The first was green, representing the Earth's solid nature and defensive capabilities. The second was black and white, which generated a yin-yang shield. Yang was measures defended against Li Jun's attack. However, his opponent did not give him time to breathe. He saw Li Jun rushing towards him with a tsunami of blood following him. He could hear the scream of the fallen from the blood ocean but quickly protected his mind with a color barrier. He used the color black, this time associated with space and the void, to teleport the blood river away from him. He tried doing the same with Li Jun, but the latter resisted. Yang Guowei had to defend against Li Jun's spear. So, at the last minute, he condensed his domain into a protective barrier before him. Boom. The clash made the surroundings tremble as the space broke apart. The trees flew away, mountains broke, and rivers dried up. Li Jun slid backward because of the shockwave. Meanwhile, Yang Guowei was perfectly intact. At least that's how it appeared. What? Yang Guowei spat a mouth of blood, and his complexion became paler. What? I blocked that attack. Absolute control of the domain is one of the main requirements to enter the Supreme Realm. And not many people, including his peers, can condense it into a protective barrier right after entering the Saint Realm. As such, he should have blocked the attack. Yang Guowei immediately used the yellow color that represented plants to heal himself. Unfortunately, this method failed as he sensed his body rapidly become weaker. He tried the color gold, which represented light and also healing. It was the same result. He rapidly analyzed the situation before things reached a critical condition. What is the greatest cause of death throughout history? He muttered. Sickness. It was not cultivators, mortal strife, or the environment that caused the greatest death throughout history. Sickness. Trillions upon trillions of mortals die every day because of disease. You figured it out, commented Li Jun. Birth, aging, sickness, and death. The four fundamental aspects of life. Yet, cultivators have removed this aspect from the equation. I think it was about time for that to change. 5 colors appeared before Yang Guowei as he continued to cough blood and get weaker. According to medicinal theory, sickness results from an imbalance of the 5 elements. So, he used them to cure himself, and this method had some effect. Nevertheless, he still felt a sense of weakness, and his origin essence operated slower than usual. I can't believe I have to use my full power on someone like Li Jun. Yang Guowei felt humiliated, but he had no choice. Suddenly, his eyes glanced in one direction before returning to normal. It was such a passing glance, so subtle that no one would notice he was looking somewhere else, thinking he was simply scanning his surroundings. Then Yang Guowei took a talisman and disappeared, making Li Jun and Yan Liling frown. Wang Wei finished watching the fight through the talisman. What's your analysis on him? He appeared prideful because of his emperor offspring identity. However, I feel like this is nothing but a mask. Given who his father is, he is most likely as cunning as the latter. I would not be surprised if he tried a similar tactic as his father, commented Li Jun. He's definitely ruthless and willing to do anything for his goal, added Yan Liling. During the entire fight, I felt he kept an eye on me secretly. I think he was scheming on kidnapping me to get you to surrender. Really? I didn't notice this. Yan Liling was very sensitive because of the recent improvement of her soul and new physique. So she felt his malice. The question is why he suddenly left the fight when he seemed prepared to go all out, questioned Wang Wei. He sensed something and looked outside. Li Jun and Yan Liling felt the same thing and observed the sky outside. There was a vision of golden clouds accompanied by the sound of the Tao, which covered the entire world. The group calculated the reason and learned someone in this generation had already broken into the Supreme Realm, surprising everyone. Most Heaven Chosens were still in the void-shattering realm, with a few entering the Saint Realm. But someone had become a true monarch out of nowhere. Wang Wei divined more information but only learned it was a sealed Heaven Chosen who cultivated. However, something blocked other details on the latter. While pondering on the person's identity and whether they had a purpose for cultivating so fast, Heavenly Tao suddenly sent a message to all cultivators in the world. And it involved this generation's cleanup. The cleanup? Something is wrong, thought Wang Wei. The cleanup is a generational event where cultivators of the Myriad Emperor world essentially go on a slaughter spree in the 9 Devil God world, culling the strength of the devil race. The purpose is to prevent any possibility of rising. Although it was a generational event, not everyone participated. And sometimes only a few people do so, mainly loose cultivators, since it is an excellent opportunity to gather resources in another world. This event had the most significant after the Devil era. Back then, Cultivators were full of hatred and animosity and took it out on the surviving race. In the next few generations after the end of the era, the devil race was almost extinct because of how much people hunted them down. Typically, the cleanup should not be important in this generation, nor did it warrant an announcement from Heavenly Tao. But this has changed today because the cleanup involved the Heavenly Battle. Heavenly Tao announced that participants needed an entry token to participate in this generation's Heavenly Battle. The exact date will be after a certain number of Heaven Chosen enter the Supreme Realm, and the permit will be acquired based on the number of devils killed during this generation's cleanup. Wang Wei pondered for a moment. The system of entry tokens is not new regarding Heavenly Battles. Most of the time, any individual can participate in the battle as long as they are recognized citizens and do not have karma from the previous generation. However, Heavenly Tao sometimes uses the entry token system to weed out too many participants. There must be some anomaly with the 9 Devil God world for Heavenly Tao to use this method. Furthermore, the token system might have lasting ramifications in this generation's battle. Wang Wei took a talisman to contact Wang Ju. A few minutes later, a massive shadow appeared in the room he was in, and a book manifested from the shadow, landing in his hand. After quickly reading it, he handed it to Li Jun and Yen Liling. According to the Sleeper's archive, near the end of the New Emperor era, something similar occurred where Heavenly Tao used the entry token to cause severe damage to the 9 Devil Gods world. And it was because an unparalleled genius had appeared in their race that needed to be eradicated. Interesting, thought Wang Wei. The devil invasion has some connection to a true devil in the upper dimension. So, he is interested in the devil race and their history. He chatted with the two for a while and set up an elder meeting to discuss sect matters. Wang Wei then flew home to see Wu Hong. "Are you coming to ask me about the true devil responsible for the devil race's actions?" she asked while drinking tea. She was not reading but painting. "Yes. I don't know much since he was dealt with by the time I ascended. And my memories are incomplete," she continued. The situation has always been weird to her for some reason, and it was not just because of her missing memories. All I know is that event inspired Qiyuan to begin the second battle of origin and the ultimate taboo. Speaking of which, what is this ultimate taboo? I can't say much since you're too weak, but I'm sure you've put 2 and 2 together and have a pretty close guess. He did have some guesses, but he felt he was missing a lot. However, he did not continue to ask. "Speaking of taboos, have you experienced all of them? Which one is the most terrifying?" "There are a few that I've only heard about," she replied while continuing to paint and not focusing on him. "As for the most terrifying? Well, there is some nuance to this answer. The ultimate taboo should have been the most terrifying. But since everyone failed and died, it reduced its significance. So, the title goes to the 6 Cardinals Tribunal. Most cultivators believe them to be only rumors or whispers, only during the ultimate taboo, that they confirm their existence and how terrifying they are. Even the current Maitreya and Supreme Unity are only slightly bigger ants before the 6 Cardinals. Wu Hong stopped her action and looked up at Wang Wei up and down. "What is it? You're really a trouble magnet. What did I do? Do I have any connection with whatever taboo you were thinking about?" "Not yet, but you will if you want to be free from fate." Wang Wei groaned as he caressed his temples. His intuition told him she was correct. "All right, let's not talk about these things." Wu Hong shrugged as she continued to paint and enjoy her tea. "What are you going to do? Go into retreat?" "I have to undergo my Saint Realm tribulation and flesh tribulation. Then I will go into retreat." "Are you going to undergo mortal dust before entering the Supreme Realm?" "I am." "That's good. It's always beneficial to temper the mind and heart when given a chance. Furthermore, when done correctly, mortal dust is a great way to deepen understanding OFS own Tao. Speaking of which, my parents should be back in a while." Wang Wei had a feeling they would be returning soon. "Really? I miss father and mother." "Me too. How about grandfather? Still in retreat?" "Yes. I've checked on him and he's still dealing with his Tao heart," replied Wang Wei. "Do you know any method to cure shattered Tao heart?" "In this chaos world the answer is no," replied Wu Hong. "The laws of this chaos world has placed great restrictions on resources dealing with Tao heart. Is it to weed out the elite and the weak-minded? Yes, but also to encourage cultivators to rely on themselves to deal with the issue. For more chapters, please visit pan0v.com. "That's unfair," declared Wang Wei, who felt there should be a better way to deal with this issue. "You're only feeling this way because it affects you. You don't have to expose my hypocrisy so blatantly." Wu Hong ignored his fake outcry. "You don't have to worry about grandfather. Your plan to have him defeat 9 suns should work. Hope so, replied Wang Wei as he stood next to her, watching her masterpiece. He had nothing to do until a few days later when he had to activate the Human Protection Array and finish the Myriad Emperor World's protection. Sun's Yang Clan Estate. Yang Guowei was talking to a few elders when he sensed something. He dismissed everyone before activating the room's formation, showing the figure of a hidden figure cloud in darkness. What is it? He asked. How are things proceeding? It's only been a few days. The dark figure paused as they sensed something in Yang Guowei's tone. Are you still mad about the other day? No. You should know it would have been impossible to kidnap them without alerting Wang Wei. And since you know his strength, you should guess what your fate would have been. I know. The figure paused for a moment. All right. Don't forget our agreement. He then disconnected the communication and Yang Guowei squinted his eyes. Somewhere in the Myriad Emperor world, the dark figure ended the formation. He was a young man with green eyes. His face was handsome until an insect came from his ears and burrowed into his cheeks. And the figure behaved as if he felt or sensed nothing. This Yang Guowei is a snake. I cannot determine his motive and behavior pattern, he thought. Anyways, as long as his father is on our side, he should behave. He then activated the formation to contact 2 others. Yu Zhu Hao, I've told you not to call me by that name, parasite. Fine. Undead Flame, how is your situation? Not good. I think the Fate Shadow Guards have spotted me? So soon? They knew they could not hide for long, but the longer they could, the better the situation was for them. I think they are only suspicious. But some people have been monitoring me and my contact with the corpse-selling sect. You need to be more careful and better hide your track. I will. Parasite then looked at the second individual. Designer, how are things on your side? Excellent. As long as you gather the resources and have enough people to sacrifice, I guarantee you a weapon capable of killing a 3rd-class emperor, reassured a young man with dirt all over his face. I guarantee you these 2 9-extremity foundations won't survive. Don't worry about the sacrifices. I've already established a semi-decent alliance with many Heaven Chosens. I will turn everyone against these 2 if I have to. What about the Suppressing Fate Alliance? Do you think we can ally with them? Asked Undead Flame. Maybe. I'm hesitating to deal with Mo Xingyun since she might be connected to the Heaven Devourer Emperor. If she is as selfish as her ancestor, it won't be a bad thing if she's the one who proves the Tao. Their objective is to prevent the rise of the Myriad Emperor world or at least delay it for as long as possible. So, if someone as selfish as Heaven Devourer Emperor become Emperor, they would never help or lead this new era. Let's wait and see. The moment Parasite said these words, he and the others sensed something. Then they received Heavenly Dao's message. Immediately, Parasite's face changed as the situation just got complicated. Heavenly Dao uses the entry token system to reduce the number of participants in the battle. And if it is the same in this cleanup, their plan, which requires ganging up on Wang Wei and Di Tian, will be in jeopardy. What do you think? Asked Parasite. It doesn't make sense to restrict the participants' size, commented Designer. In Heaven will battles where Eternal Emperor should appear, it has always been a free-for-all so that the final winner is the person who suppresses every individual. According to precedent, a few times Heavenly Dao tried to cultivate an eternal emperor through a glorious age that skipped the previous generation, and countless heavenly physiques showed up. And in all these battles, there have never been restrictions on the participant number. Do you think it's because of the era sun? Asked Undead Flame. No. Heavenly Dao cannot show that much favoritism, even if it would benefit it, analyzed Parasite. Let's just until the cleanup. This might be because of an unknown situation in the Devil God world. Saint Tribulation. Wang Wei held the Human Destiny Sword in his hand. At the decided time he activated it. A brilliant light rushed from the department of the Tao Opening Sect, shining over the entire world. And from that light appeared a golden formation made of countless circular runes with different designs. It covered most of the world. Subsequently, 3 more lights rushed to the sky. The silver one from the northern continent was from the demon race. The blue one from the Eastern Ocean, located between the central and eastern continent, came from the sea race. The last one was white and it came from the eastern continent. The different color formations appeared above the heavens before fusing. The process was easier than expected, making Wang Wei believe that someone thought of this possibility and tempered these formations. His guess is Emperor Kong, since only an eternal emperor would have the means to detect these hidden formations. Of course he had no proof. As he proceeded with the fusion, he strengthened his theory even more. He discovered that it was not someone tempered with the other formations but the human protection array. They made it more compatible with fusing with different arrays. Focusing on the task at hand, he finished the fusion process before giving it two main directions. Firstly, watch any movement from the forbidden zones, especially the Dao burial ground. Secondly, be on the lookout for foreigners approaching and entering the Myriad Emperor world. Once everything finished, Wang Wei felt a sense of relief. The next step of this plan was the committee that ensures each faction pays its share of resources. He had already chosen a reliable delegate from the sectarian faction to send for the committee. While mortals, ordinary cultivators and non-emperor lineages wondered what was happening in the world, Wang Wei had other stuff to do. Tai Gang had returned and he wanted to chat with him. How did things go? There was no suspense since most of the worlds I went to were middle 1,000 words. As for the great 1,000 worlds, there were a few resistances. But the elders put them down. That's good. Did you catch the existence of other factions in the lower realm? A few, Tai Gang replied. Mostly the Academy. They've conquered a few worlds to compensate for the previous Chi Lux loss. According to your instructions, we did not intervene in these worlds to not alert anyone. Wang Wei nodded. We must reduce interaction with the outside world for a while before the heaven will battle. Is there a reason? To prevent foreign interference or invasion. What about your other plans? Everything is already set. I just need to wait. He has already instructed the Fate Shadow Guards to expand throughout the endless void. And he has a reliable person in charge of the expansion, allowing him not to worry about problems despite entering a state of low contact. So, why is this conversation really for? Tai Gang could feel this was not as simple as on the surface. What is your plan for the future? Tai Gang did not immediately answer. What do you have planned for me? I wanted you to become Fate One and protect the sect. But I want to know if you are willing. Tai Gang did not immediately answer. I remember the first time we met. I was full of pride and ambitions, even after losing at the hands of Li Jun. But you made me realize how weak I was with one look. Tai Gang looked in the distance, slightly dazed. After broadening my horizon in this world, I truly realized how tiny and insignificant I am. He squinted his eyes with unwavering determination. But I still want to see the highest stage of cultivation with the best path. You want to prove the Tao? Yes, replied Tai Gang. But I also know my limitations. So, I have a plan that gives me the best chance. Oh, do tell. I want to become the most powerful insurgent possible. And I will serve you until your ascent. But before leaving, you can transfer my power to someone else and I will reincarnate. For more chapters, please visit pan0v.l. Com. You want to use your past lives experience to ensure you can prove the Tao in the next. Yes. It's not a bad idea, muttered Wang Wei. With Tai Gang's talent, he would need much luck to prove the Tao or hope that he is reincarnated into a more talented body with a better destiny. However, such a method is not guaranteed. However, if he was a powerful insurgent in his first life, he could use his experience to compensate for his talent. I will help you. But do you want to be karmically bonded with the sect during your reincarnation? No, I want to revive the Iron Fist Kingdom. Tai Gang knew the benefit of this karma and became one of the Tao opening sect's emperors. However, he wanted to have his own legacy. That's fine, agreed Wang Wei before talking with him for a while and dismissing him. I guess I need to find another Fate One. He had someone else in mind, but he did not know whether she would be a good fit. Soon afterward, he went to Tribulation Peak to upgrade the formations. He did not want to leave the sect for his tribulations, but he also knew it could be too powerful for the current formations. He improved them and ensured to hide the process from the outside world. However, he did allow the disciples to witness the whole thing, allowing them to experience how powerful their sect master was. After setting up everything, he released the suppressing technique he's been using the entire time. The sky then changed as fire, thunder, wind, and other elements descended on him with unimaginable power. This part of the tribulation lasted 7 straight days without stopping. Of course, this tribulation was a plaything to Wang Wei. He could not even temper his body because of how weak it was. However, he was interested in the second part of the tribulation. The energy in the clouds condensed into 2 individuals, a woman and a man, both looking very young. Wang Wei's mind rushed as he tried to recognize these two. The Yin Moon Emperor and the Sword-Casting Emperor. These two were the founders of the Yin Moon Palace and the Sword-Casting Villa. They were Jian Wushuang and Su Ya's ancestors. Both were pseudo-eternal emperors who have gone to become paragons and achieve great things. Wang Wei focused on the sword-casting emperor since they technically had some karma. He is the man who defeated the Battle Maniac Emperor during his first Heavenwell battle. He once read some words Battle Maniac left in the sect's archive. According to the latter, this defeat was his greatest shame. And it was not because he lost, but because he lost to a swordsman he deemed inferior to his sister. Later on, after becoming a paragon, he went on to have a rematch and won by a slight margin, just as sword-casting emperor did in their battle. A lot of information flashed in his mind thinking about the life of these two. The Yin Moon Emperor grew up in a terrible environment as a mortal. She grew to hate men because her father abused her and her mother. One day her mother forced her to leave before confronting their father and burning them inside their house. Yin Moon hated the feeling of weakness and actively searched for the world of cultivation. She suppressed her peers with the 7 emotions and 6 desires physique before proving the Tao. Unfortunately, she was short of becoming an eternal. Eventually she created the Yin Moon Palace and only accepted women. The sword-casting emperor lived in the 3rd generation of the ancient emperor era. Back then, the sleepers had just begun and could not gather much information about him. However, Wang Wei knew something about his name. Sword-casting implied he was a master of sword refining or his Tao was related to it. But that was not the case. He chose that title and named his faction as such to honor his passing father, who was a mortal blacksmith known for creating great swords. He elevated his father's legacy to a refiner and created the sword-casting Vila, who, to this day, is the best sword refiner in the world. Even Origin Weapon Mountain cannot compare to them in that category. Interesting lineup, commented Wang Wei. But that's not enough to stop me. Thunder flashed in the clouds, and they responded as if they heard his words. Then 2 more people appeared, 1 woman and a man. The woman dressed plainly with a scholarly atmosphere around her. Meanwhile, the young man had heterochromatic eyes, red and blue. The Void Emperor, stated Wang Wei as he looked at the woman before glancing at the man. The Samsara Emperor. 2 more pseudo-eternal emperors. Saint Tribulation, L. 2 interesting emperors, thought Wang Wei. The Void Emperor was once a student of the Emperor Enlightening Academy when they had cultivated 5 great emperors. Unfortunately, her experience in the academy was less than pleasant. She had one other competitor who was on par with her despite having the boundless Void physique. However, the Void Emperor always felt the academy discriminated against her because of her gender. She received fewer resources from him, less support, fewer followers, and fewer opportunities. She would have understood if there was an overwhelming difference between the two, but they were relative to each other in most things. The last straw that made her leave was when one of the supreme teachers tried to force her to marry her competitor and give up on her goal of proving the Tao. She left in anger, trying to forge her way. Oddly, she began to strive during this period. Her strength drastically increased until she became known as the person most likely to prove the Tao. And she did. She defeated all her opponents and became a pseudo-eternal. Then she established the Tao-worshipping academy with a more tolerant and accepting philosophy. As for her opponent from the academy, she killed him in the final battle. But she did not retaliate against the academy. After this incident, the Emperor Enlightened Academy also realized the corruption of their system and changed their policy to be more inclusive and tolerant. The Void Emperor left the academy in the middle of the void-shattering realm. So, this version is the one with her peak ability, thought Wang Wei before sizing the Samsara Emperor. His story was also interesting. In his youth, the Samsara Emperor was a renowned thief. He would infiltrate different factions to steal important resources from them. When all Heaven Chosens participated in major fortunate events, he would sneak at the last moment to steal all the rewards from everyone before vanishing. He spent most of his life running away from numerous factions, including the Tao Opening Sect. Wang Wei knew 2 defining events in his life. The first one was he stole some treasure that allowed him to understand Samsara law. And the second was when he suddenly fled into the Nether Hell. After leaving the Nether Hall, the Samsara Emperor disappeared from the world. And even after proving the Tao, he did not stay nor preach to the world. He immediately ascended. Wang Wei analyzed his life and came up with a theory. He believes the Samsara Emperor somehow used the Nether Hall to pass his outlaw trial. Maybe through a deal with Old Man Nether. However, he ran away after proving Tao to escape his deal or stay away from him. From what he knew, the Samsara Emperor was one of the main paragons in the Second Origin battle, so he should not care about someone like Old Man Nether. Let's get this over with, he said before deploying his domains, and the others did the same. Facing 4 domains from eventual pseudo-eternal emperors did not suppress him. On the contrary, he still had the advantage. The first to take action was the Yin Moon Emperor. A figure suddenly condensed before her. It was Wang Wei with blood-red eyes. A manifestation of one of my deepest fears? Thought Wang Wei as he sensed this clone who actually had close to 80% of his ability. What was one of his biggest fears? Himself. He knew if he one day went crazy he could do irreparable damage. Even the current sane version of himself was already dangerous to the world. He could not imagine an unrestrained, completely free and devoid of mortality version of himself. Wang Wei's desire to be free was not to be someone who kills and destroys as he pleases. He wanted the freedom to be able to do these things, to have the ability to choose without restraint, whether physically or morally. Although if you delve deeper into his goal, it was somewhat hypocritical, he did not mind. And this technique manifested the version of himself that removed that layer of hypocrisy. It was completely free, indulging in its desires and wants. Interesting technique, he muttered as he could see the flaw in this technique. It worked on an individual basis. The Yin Moon Emperor can manifest his innermost fears and copy his strength. However, she cannot manifest Wang Wei to fight another person. Without him as the mirror, she cannot access so much of his power. Lost lamb, you are a puppet because you lack a soul, commented Wang Wei. Then he controlled the laws of souls in his domain to grant this fear manifestation a soul. And now that he had a soul and its own will, it was no longer under the control of Yin Moon. Out of anger for its past, the fear manifestation attacked its oppressor. It clenched its fist and punched her. Love protection. Love is one of the most powerful emotions in existence. And with this technique, the Yin Moon Emperor became the most beloved individual throughout all heaven myriad worlds. Trillions upon trillions of mortals, objects, non-living entities, and worlds loved and adored her, manifesting in the form of protection. Unfortunately, she was no match for a manifestation with nearly 80% of Wang Wei's power. Her technique and domain could not resist the attack, and she turned back into thunder and disappeared. For more chapters, please visit pan0v.l. Wang Wei then gazed at the sword-casting emperor. The latter looked at him without moving. Wang Wei knew how this man's Daos operated, giving him an advantage, but he still tested it. He flicked his finger, generating enough force to destroy thousands of galaxies. The sword-casting emperor waved his sword, and the force returned to Wang Wei with an at least tenfold increase. Tao of parrying or the Tao of counter. He took one of the basic concepts of swordsmanship, parrying, and elevated it to the point it can counter anything, including concepts. Wang Wei created a spear of death and threw it toward sword casting. The latter waved his sword to parry it, including the power of death. However, when his sword touched the spear, Wang Wei's domain activated the destiny ability of purpose manipulation. He forcefully changed sword-casting Emperor's Tao to be only able to counter physical objects. So the latter countered his spear, but death's power killed him. Now it was the Void Emperor's turn. She first reinforced the space around her domain to prevent teleportation and even made flying a struggle. Then she created these void twisters, essentially infinite dimensions collapsing and twisting on each other. The space above the Tao opening sect became beyond chaotic. If not for the protective arrays, this would be a catastrophe that enveloped dozens of the surrounding sect's domains. Not bad, thought Wang Wei. As an expert in the laws of space, he could achieve the same feat, meaning this attack was useless. Instead, he was thinking about space and time Tao. In the world of science, space and time are basically the same, or in better words, interchangeable. However, they were two different concepts in the cultivation world, although with some relations. The space of this world is too easy to break. I should change that. Too many catastrophes originated from cultivators destructing power affecting space. As such, he decided to change the order of the world. Cultivators can still use their laws to teleport. But if they want to break the space itself, even a quasi-emperor would not have this ability. Not a bad technique, analyzed Wang Wei as he sensed the Void Emperor trying to teleport all his organs and even the origin essence inside his body. You can die with your own technique. He teleported her brain from her body and she dispersed, returning to heaven and earth. At last it was the Samsara Emperor's turn. The latter waved his hand to create a wheel with the power of decay, which is one of the subsidiary laws of death. Although it can also be a law of its own, a potent one at that. Wang Wei waved his hand to create the same wheel, canceling the attack. How sneaky. Worthy of a thief. The wheel was a decoy. The real attack was trying to steal his lifespan and secretly kill him. He snapped his finger. Death vibration, dark sound waves overwhelmed the Samsara Emperor, sending him into the cycle of reincarnation. Survived. Wang Wei looked at the dark aura protecting the latter. Death immunity? Interesting. He suddenly looked higher at the Samsara Emperor. Amongst these young emperors, he believed he had the highest chance of reaching immortal venerable strength. Although the others were talented, breaking the boundary between immortal and mortal sometimes requires opportunity and the right time. It is common in this age because of the glorious age. Without the right opportunity, many of the current heaven chosens would not have this feat. Wang Wei controlled his fate law and changed the Samsara Emperor's fate to that of a dying passing. And unfortunately, fate triumphed over Samsara and bypassed his death immunity technique. I would have to love to compete with the real version. It would be interesting if the younger version of all emperors across time and space competed against each other. That would be a sight to see. Saints preaching. After his tribulation, he felt like a weight had been lifted from his shoulder. It was now smoother to control his law and domain. It was as if a veil or restrictions was removed from his body. As a result, it was easier for him to access the laws of heaven and earth and comprehend them. Wang Wei knew the reason for this change. Although he was previously a saint, heaven and earth did not acknowledge his realm since he did not undergo tribulation. The weight and veil he sensed was his incongruity with the world. Should I preach? He thought. One of the reasons the saint realm is named as such is because every true person can preach their Tao to a large group of people. And in return, heavenly Tao will grant them a small amount of merit. In ancient emperor era, saint realm cultivators would travel to the lower realm and preach in small, middle, and even great thousand worlds to receive merit. Unfortunately, as time passed, these places' cultivation civilization has been set, making it pointless to do so in modern times. The only time cultivators in modern times used this method was when they discovered a brand new world. A world that does not have a cultivation civilization for some reason, or one that was just born and is relatively new. Unfortunately, these worlds are rarer to find. Even with Wang Wei's soul flower ability, he might not find one since they might not exist at the current moment. Although I don't need the small amount of merit, it's better than nothing. He contacted the elders to announce he would preach to the sect's disciples. He thought this would be a simple thing that took a few days. But the event quickly escalated. The elders wanted this event to be more significant. They wanted disciples, elders, deacons, and foreign guests, people affiliated with the sect but not directly part of it, to listen. It would take some time to gather these people. One elder mentioned that the sect would recruit another group of new disciples a few months from now and let them listen as well to benefit the sect. Another one suggested allowing the disciples from the lower realm to participate. The new branches the sect opened in the lower realm needed a way to increase these people's loyalty to the sect. And listening to a potential future eternal emperor preach would do wonders for this issue. The myriad emperor world was semi-closed, so the lower realm disciples could not come here. But the sect decided to use an image transmission array to broadcast the event. Wang Wei was speechless the entire time. He did not expect things to escalate to this level. After the elders planned everything, Li Jun and Yan Lililing would also preach before him, turning this into an event. Tai Gang was on the list. Unfortunately, he was now in retreat to enter the Saint realm. A few months later, Wang Wei oversaw the disciple recruit. The sect divided the tester into two groups, the one with cultivation and the one without. Regarding cultivators, no one above the divine altar would be accepted since that's the realm where it is not too expensive to recast the foundation. There used to be an age limit, but Wang Wei removed it to ensure the sect could find some late bloomers with undetected talents. As such, people from as young as 14 to divine Altair cultivators close to the 1,000-year limit attended this process. The sect then used a variety of criteria to test these people. They tested for their talent, including professions, soul, physique, understanding, chi manipulation talent, luck, willpower, and Tao heart. The pagoda was useful for the last part. And this was not the end. The sect checked the background of these people to ensure no problem. They checked their fate line to see if they had some unique destiny. They checked their karma to see if they had some karmic connection that would be favorable to their cultivation or detrimental to them in the sect. Because of this unique and comprehensive method, some accepted individuals appeared to make no sense. Some people were nothing but mortals that did not even have leakless bodies. They only wanted to take a chance at changing their lives. And since travel had become more accessible because of the constructs, they came to give it a chance. Although these choices appeared nonsensical, Only the sects knew these people could compete with some destiny, allowing them to have their legends in the cultivation. That destiny might be as simple as an inheritance. Usually, these people would never have a chance to fulfill their destiny. But with the sect's support, they were now the prime candidates. The advantages of this recruiting method were endless, and it was only possible because of Wang Wei's destiny and fate Dao. Once everything finished, 2 participants stood out amongst the rest. A girl named Kai Song, and she was a member of the spirit race. She is a child's toy who became sentient after being stuck in a high spirit chi environment. After learning about the world, Kai Song had recently acquired her physical body and was on her way to Myriad Spirit Mountain. On her way, she heard about the sect's recruit and had a whim to come test. The sect discovered she had an extraordinary cultivation talent and a monster-level talent for puppets. She was on par with Yan Liling in her professions, if not even more talented. The second one was Jin Mengyao, the owner of the 25th Physique, Spear Overlord Physique. Sect Master, what do you think of these two? Asked one of the elders through divine sense. For more chapters, please visit Pan 0v.l. Com Chao Song is quiet, introverted, and does not fear loneliness. Perfect traits for professions that require years of study. However, we also have to train her social skills. Puppets can be vital for our plans if used correctly, so her skills can be helpful. As for Jin Mengyao, besides his arrogance, he is indeed talented. However, we must see how he grows. Wang Wei can read Jin Mengyao like the back of his hand. He could tell this guy was planning on using the sect's resources to catch up to this generation's heaven shows. Then, defeat him to become the sect's leader before proving the Tao and becoming an eternal emperor. The arrogance and ambitions of young people, thought Wang Wei. These two are potential emperors. Based on their performance, they can become the sect's seal heaven chosen. One of them might participate in the generation after my father, he added. A few people thought the same things and waited to bring it off. With the karma washing pool that Wang Wei brought for the sect, they will not have to worry about future emperors. Even if one of these two failed their heaven will battle, the sect could wait for a generation with less competition and bring them out. They don't have to seal themselves for millions of years. After the sect's recruitment, it was time for the preaching events. Li Jun went first. Most people gathered on the sect's largest mountain, sitting cross-legged on cushions. The rest stayed in other mountains and watched things through formations. And it was the same for the branches in the lower realm. Li Jun sat cross-legged, floating in the air and overlooking everyone. I am true person Li Jun, and today I will enlighten you in the ways of battle. His voice was soft, but everyone could hear him. It was as if he was muttering next to their ears. Even the people who listened through formations felt the same way. Visions of lotus manifested near him, along with beautiful sounds representing the voice of the Tao, the voice of truth. Li Jun then talked about battle as if it was a Tao. He also injected some of his law understanding for the void-shattering realm and above individuals. The preaching lasted 3 months. And once he finished, everyone had one thought in their mind. This man made battle, a brutal and cruel thing, into an art. And they wanted more. Everyone benefited. Many of the new disciples were malnourished mortals who knew nothing about cultivation. The sect had to provide spirit chi and pills for them to listen for the entire 3 months. But even they benefited. Li Jun's explanation of how to use the mortal body to exert the most power in battle, how to analyze the opponent and how to maximize the use of the environment targeted them. Furthermore, even if they could not understand most of the things he said, it would benefit them in the future as long as they remember some things and apply them in their lives. Golden lights came from heaven and he received his merit. Next was Yan Liling's turn. Her process was similar to Li Jun's. She preached about all 5 professions, focusing on establishing a foundation for most profession-oriented people listening. Even Wang Wei learned something from her. As for the non-professions, they also benefited since she also talked about flame, energy and spiritual power control. After taking her merit, it was Wang Wei's turn. I am Wang Wei, a true person and your sect master, said Wang Wei with a pleasing voice. And today I will enlighten you on the essence of cultivation. He let his words simmer for a few seconds. In the endless void there are countless cultivation systems, good or bad. But at their core they involve 4 fundamental aspects: essence, chi, spirit and law. Even if there are some outlier systems, one of these 4 will be involved in one way or the other. Now let's begin with essence or the body. Next is chi or energy, the source of life and evolution. Third is the spirit or the soul, mind or spirit. Finally, it's the law, the fundamental concepts that govern realities. The process lasted 3 years. And once everybody woke up, they did not know how to describe this experience and remained quiet for a few seconds. Family reunion? Wang Wei's sermon covered many things. These people now had an excellent understanding of the cultivation realms from body refining to primordial spirit. They understood which part of essence, qi and spirit each realm was based on. With this knowledge they can easily enter these realms and push them to their limits if they are talented enough. For the law aspect, Wang Wei talked about the 5 elements law and a bit about his fate law. However, he primarily focused on the subtle control of the law, and with his force control skill, every individual, including the true monarchs of the sect. Today's preaching will benefit every single listener until they become quasi-emperors. And maybe even further. Wang Wei received his merit before dismissing everyone. There was a lingering desire in the faces of most of the disciples. It was genuinely fascinating to listen to people preaching. It was like someone presented the universe's fundamental truth in such an easily understandable way. The feeling was simply intoxicating. What a marvelous sermon, someone suddenly said. When Wang Wei saw where it originated, his eyes lit up. Mom, Dad. Yu Yan rushed to hug her son, and Wang Tian followed. The family formed a hug sandwich with Wang Wei in the middle. When did you guys get here? After Lai Ling's turn, Yu Yan explained. We wanted to surprise you. I'm glad you are back, said Wang Wei with a smile. Let's go somewhere else. The 3 flew to Wang Wei's transcending fate mountain to chat. Everyone sat together, including Wu Hong. Wang Wei prepared the tea and the family chatted. Your sermon was brilliant, commented Wang Tian. I've learned a lot. He was not lying since he had learned a lot after hearing it, especially his force control skill which he believed could reach a higher level after a while. Yu Yan nodded, but she did not say anything. She held her son in her hands, cuddling him like a child. Wang Wei did not resist. I'm glad. So, how was your mortal dust? What did you do? Any new discoveries? He could tell it was more than successful since the two were now at the peak of the supreme realm, only one step away from becoming quasi-emperors. Mine was interesting, added Yu Yan. I became a blind mortal living all my life in darkness. However, after enlightening myself on darkness and regaining my memories, I felt it was not enough, so I continued. My second persona was someone who had connections with some of the vilest individuals in society, sex traffickers, rapists, killers, cannibals, etc. I wanted to experience the darkness of the world. This persona granted me a deep understanding of societal darkness or darkness of the mind. But of course I was not satisfied. So, I placed a bunch of mortals and cultivators in a small world and literally turned into darkness. Observing them live and survive in a world without sun, with only darkness, was interesting to say the least. Interesting. I give you a full score for ingenuity, commented Wang Wei. Thanks. I think you've been rubbing off me, smiled Yu Yan, pleased with her son's compliment. Old man, what about you? Mine was not that interesting, replied Wang Tian. I had many personas in the mortal world, all swordsmen with different personalities, the indifferent swordsman who killed his loved ones for his sword Dao, the free and unrestrained swordsman, the charismatic one with friends all over the martial art world, and even the drunkard swordsman. Every time I learned something fundamental about swords from these personas, I would awaken my memories and choose the next one. Wang Tian took a sip of tea. Then I turned myself into a sword and experienced what it was like. In a few hundred years, many swordsmen created legends with my sword. As a result, I learned the fundamental truth that the sword was a weapon of murder. Nothing else, nothing more. You don't seem too happy about this discovery, remarked Wang Wei as he sensed his father's odd mood. It's not that, since I've always known this. With his achievement in the sword, of course, he knew the fundamental purpose of the sword's existence. I've loved the sword since I was 8 and my father gave me a wooden sword for practice. I named it Little Heaven, after my name, and I still preserve it. I was hoping to pass it on to you for your training. Well, you know how that turned out. Wang Wei gave his father a wry smile. It's not his fault that he was not a fan of most weapons. Wang Tian did not blame his son since he was in a state of remembrance. My love and passion for the sword have allowed me to travel far in its ways. But it also made me romanticize the sword, thinking it was more than a simple weapon. I thought it was beautiful, mighty, the best weapon, and the weapon of kings. Unfortunately, through cultivation, I found its essence as a tool created for death and slaughter. And a small part of me refused to accept this fact, until mortal dust. In the time he spent as a sword, he ended up in different people's hands. A blacksmith who admired the technique behind its creation. A king who used it as a symbol of power and authority. However, he always ended up being used as a tool for killing. For more chapters, please visit pan0vl. After removing that final reluctance, Wang Tian sublimated his state of mind, and his swordsmanship reached a higher realm. As long as you've figured things out, added Wang Wei. How strong are you now? Condense your most powerful attack into a sword chi and let me see. Wang Tian did not hesitate because he knew how strong his son was before leaving. He raised his hand to condense a small sword the size of a toothpick. As expected, commented Wang Wei as he felt the power emanating from the sword chi. Middle level of 3-leaf. After you become a quasi-emperor, you will reach the peak with a slight chance of breaking into 4-leaf. He knew his father, and since Ji Lanfang had such potential, it made sense for his father to be on par with the latter. Chuips, Yu Yen smacked her lips in response. She left her son's embrace and chose to embrace her quiet daughter-in-law instead. What's wrong? After showing her my strength, she argued with me that she would still win if we had a heaven-will battle in our generation, explained Wang Tian. Son, don't you think so? I do. Oh, come on. How come you're on her side? Countered Wang Tian. Firstly, it's not as challenging as you think to scheme against an immortal venerable. I'm sure Mom could do it given the right circumstances, said Wang Wei. Secondly, the only reason you've broken the boundary between mortal and immortal has much to do with circumstances. Now you are just blatantly disrespecting me. There are 3 main reasons for your current success. The fact that you had to stay so long in the Saint Realm, forced to polish your foundation beyond anything you could have achieved if there was a battle in your generation. The others are the Dui realm and my force control skill. Wang Tian pondered for a moment and realized it was the truth. These things contributed most to his current strength. Of course, there were other factors. For example, he pushed himself beyond his limits when he saw how fast his son grew. Competition and drive can motivate anyone to improve beyond their limits. Be that as it may, I still think I would have won. Wang Wei shrugged his shoulders and did not take a side. He believed his mother would win simply because his father had a soft spot for her. If she exploited that weakness, he would not be able to resist. Of course, given how much she loved him, she might not be willing to take it that far. I have 2 things for you, said Wang Wei to change the topic. The first is a talisman from our ancestor, the Sword Empress. Wang Tian immediately became excited. He had never met a swordsman compared to him, so he idolized the ones from the past, and his ancestor was his favorite. Whenever he needed guidance in his swordsmanship, he would comprehend her heaven-slashing scripture or the sword will she left in the sect. He took the talisman with a childlike smile. He could not imagine the benefit he would receive from direct guidance from her. The second is the contact of a swordsman on par with you. Wang Wei then told him about his fight with Ji Lanfang. And Wang Tian became more excited. I cannot wait to exchange experiences with another fellow Taoist. He felt his luck was on the rise after the mortal dust. Alright, let's not talk about these boring things, commented Yu Yen as she caressed Wu Hong's hair. Daughter, when are you giving me my first grandson? Ask your son, she replied sheepishly. He's the one who doesn't want children. Wang Wei wanted to roll his eyes. They've talked about this and agreed on the matter. But now she has placed the blame on him. Flesh tribulation. Wang Wei spent the next few months with his parents, postponing his seclusion. Then he created a clone to socialize with him while his main body entered seclusion. Meanwhile, Wu Hong did the opposite as her main body entered seclusion while a clone spent time with Wang Wei's clone. The couple wanted to spend as much time together as possible. The first thing he did was Wang Just ceremony. The process required formations, a ritual, and other resources. After everything finished, his shadow connected to her shadow, transferring some of his power to her. A cocoon enveloped Wang Ju as she underwent a massive transformation. She will be a terrifying spy and assassin after inheriting 70% of Wang Wei's power and abilities, especially if she uses them correctly with her shadow law. Afterward, Wang Wei proceeded to condense his first black hole. With enough primordial star essence, he condensed a black hole countless times bigger than the observable universe back on Earth. He first checked whether there were any problems with his secondary artificial acupoints. Then, he checked whether there were any contradictions between the black holes in the 1962 main acupoints. After detecting no issue, he continued to condense black holes for a total of 10,000 second acupoints or a grand total of 19,962. After sensing that his body had reached saturation, Wang Wei stopped and clenched his fist to feel the power contained. 50 primordial dragon force. He could now destroy 50% of a great thousand world with one attack. And that was not the only increase but also overall defense, speed, regeneration and survivability. It's coming, he thought after analyzing his body. An unknown power descended on him and he knew it was from the true power Dao realm. His tribulation had arrived. Wang Wei lay on the ground to prepare. He suddenly felt something munched on his skin making him groan. With his pain resistance, he would not blink an eye if he swallowed an entire sun, feeling every sensation as the heat burned his throat, liquefied his intestine or charred his bones. However, the pain intensity was nothing he's ever experienced. Ancient Desolate explained to him this was one of the aspects of the flesh tribulation. The test knew the highest threshold of anyone participating and inflicted a higher level. The severity of the pain is one of the many reasons people cannot open the gate of pain or continue on this path. I can't believe having a high pain tolerance would work against me, thought Wang Wei. However, this was not even the end. He received information or a request to take all the tests together and choose how many of them to take at once. Wang Wei decided on all of them. He wanted to finish the test for the third level in one swoop. Ancient Desolate gave him some tips. The tribulation is divided similarly to the Ancient Desolate body refining scripture. Skin, bones, blood, muscles and meridians, organs and cells. There will also be special tests for individuals with unique body refining techniques that do not involve these categories. Typically, Wang Wei needed to take these tests one by one in the primordial dragon realm. However, the Ancient Desolate Emperor told him there would be some advantages if he took the tests together. He will receive a boost of strength afterward compared to if he took them individually. Meanwhile, the single test is to decide a body refiner's worthiness to continue walking on the true power Dao realm. After the request, the tribulation continued. Wang Wei experienced horrendous pain as he watched his skin rapidly disappear from his body, as if a creature enjoyed a pleasant meal with his body. Suddenly, an intense fear overwhelms his mind. Here we go, thought Wang Wei, trying to control his emotions. Watching his skin vanish, the fear of dying overcame his mind. Wang Wei knew this part of the test. His powerful soul, immune to most spiritual attacks, was useless on this occasion. The unknown power of the true power Dao realm did not care about his innate paragon soul. And his intuition told him that even if he removed his chains and accessed his spiritual strength, it would be pointless. Wang Wei had to rely on his willpower to bear the pain. His Dao heart and state of mind to fight this overwhelming fear. However, things became worse for him before getting better. After he turned into a macabre creature without skin, his muscles rapidly evaporated, exponentially increasing the pain and fear. Wang Wei was grunting and groaning, trying to keep the pain away. Meanwhile, he felt his mind was on the verge of cracking. I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. He repeated these words over and over like an endless loop. However, things got worse for him since his organs were next. If Ancient Desolate were here, he would give Wang Wei a thumbs up for his crazy action. When he told the latter to take the test together, he meant 2 or 3 simultaneously, not everything at once. By the time Wang Wei was a creature with only bone, he was screaming despite having no vocal cords. His scream came deep from his soul. He watched the dissipation of his bones and the fear intensified. With every cell that disappeared, he felt himself driving close to madness. And the pain did not help the situation. He could hear a whisper telling him to give up and abandon this path. And he desperately wanted to listen to it. How easy it would be to give up. For more chapters, please visit pan0v.l. Why did he have to endure so much? If he wanted a strong body, he could just comprehend power law. There was no need to inflict this level of cruelty onto himself. It was not worth it. No, I can't give up. In this strange state where he has no corporeal form but still exists, Wang Wei discovered he could use the full power of his willpower. So, he tapped into that power. This action aided the situation, but it did not solve the problem. He hung on to this feeling of unwillingness and defiance. Memories of him floating in the endless void flashed in his mind. Back then, he also had to overcome his fear of death while fighting eons of loneliness. He did not give up then, so he would not give up now. He gritted his non-existent teeth and persevered. When only the last cell of his existence remained, his fear and pain reached an indescribable level. And when that cell also evaporated, he failed a crack in his spirit, pushing him to the verge of a mental breakdown. However, he drew on his experience of having his existence destroyed. He reined in all the fear and resisted the pain. He had to withstand such intensity for only 10 seconds, but each felt like a lifetime. 10 seconds later, the suffering ended, and his body was regenerated cell by cell. And since his fleshly body was linked to his primordial spirit, it also regrew. That was interesting, he muttered as he looked at his new body. This test took into account all his willpower and pushed it beyond his limit to test him. And he felt a real challenge for the first time in a while. Not to mention, this experience was a great way to temper the mind. 70 primordial dragon force, an increase of 20. Is this my reward? He muttered, satisfied given how difficult it is to advance in this realm. Not just this. He raised his hand and the void trembled. He did not use any chi law or other aspects of his power. He materialized his willpower to achieve this feat. Wang Wei realized this experience had allowed him better control and access to his willpower. For the first time, he can use the strength of his willpower without damaging his body. Although it was only a portion, he always believed he needed to become a great emperor before taking that step. This is a good step, he muttered about his progress. Then he exhaled deeply, thinking about the true power Dao realm. He always knew it was not a simple cultivation path. But today's tribulation confirmed his guess. He has many theories about the true power Dao realm. The best one is that it is the first power system ever. After the birth of the chaos universe, after the appearance of the first creatures, Wang Wei believed there were no innate life forms. At least not in a sense they were born powerful with innate laws. He believed these first creatures did not have a cultivation system but discovered the potential of the flesh in the form of the gate of power. The true power Dao was the first way creatures achieved immortality and eternity. There is more to his theory. He believes that the history of the eternal ascension world can be divided into eras. And in the first eras, there were no lower dimension and heaven wills. So, the creatures from that time relied on the true power Dao realm to cultivate. He once talked about this theory with Wu Hong, but she said she did not have memories of such history. But he was probably correct. Did you really take all the tests at once? End a novel. Wang Wei turned to the sudden voice and saw his wife. Not bothered by how she bypassed his formation, he replied, yes. Wu Hong did not know what to say. She remembered her flesh tribulation. She had a whim and decided to try 3 simultaneously, and she did not forget that horror for a long time. In her career, she has met a few inextinguishable paragons or individuals who opened the gate of power. The number of people who could withstand 2 tests simultaneously could be counted on one hand. Most of them did so by accident since they knew little information about the horror of the test. Many unlucky individuals chose 2 or more tests for a while and failed, ending their dreams of walking on this path. 8. Heterogeneity. Wu Hong was impressed. She has always known her boy toy was talented and capable. And on a few occasions she was proud and impressed by him. But today for the first time she was impressed beyond words. She looked at him, eyes sparkling while gently biting her lower lips. Being 0 Wang Wei immediately recognized the look in his wife's eyes. He smiled before they jumped on each other like primates in a zoo, doing the dirty with no shame or regard for the children's visitors. Moreover, he grew wilder when she even let him be on top. He went wild, losing himself in the embrace of passion and depravity. Wang Wei lay on the floor with Wu Hong on his arm. He was breathing heavily as if he had done the most intensive exercise. The bedroom is one of the few times he can experience mortal things like fatigue and lack of stamina. After taking a few minutes to regulate his breathing, he asked her, I was wondering why my incarnations did not undergo the tribulations. There are already many restrictions on the unorthodox path, and it would be unfair if all the incarnations had to undergo the tribulation. That makes sense, Wang Wei analyzed. I guess the orthodox path only has to take once. They don't have to redoing it with each reincarnation. The two chatted for a moment before continuing to do their own things. Wang Wei had to test the limits of his body while getting acquainted with his new strength. He punched the formation before him. Boom. As expected, 7 leaf. His fleshly body only had this power, not considering his other source of power. And he could sense that he would have no problem increasing his power as long as he moved up in the true power Dao realm. Is this a way to remove the limit of 7 leaf? Or is this the result of my paragon soul and the incarnations? Wang Wei always suspected his soul was one of the reasons he barely had any bottlenecks in cultivation. He also suspected he would not have the immortal venerable limit that most cultivators have. However, he did not know the exact reason. Regardless, he knew that if people wanted to remove the limit, they could cultivate until the third level of the true power Dao realm. He checked his body and smiled. In the early stages of his cultivation, his fleshly body has always been more powerful than his cultivation. However, the other aspects caught up after the void-shattering realm and the nine-extremity foundation. Now, his fleshly body was the most powerful aspect, at least for his main body. After admiring his perfect figure, he continued his seclusion, focusing on comprehending laws. Wang Wei had entered the mature Dao tree stage of the Saint Realm, and his domain was hundreds of times beyond the limit. Without the help of Gu Shen's pagoda, the process was extremely long, 20,000 years to be exact. And with the 360 future Buddha self, he spent 2 million years. He pushed the boundary of the Saint Realm with how deep of time he spent comprehending the law, especially with his talent. And yet, I still have a silver tree. He now understood achieving golden tree is now just about time spent comprehending laws. But also the mysterious baptism samsara Dao cultivators experience when they walk the path of nine extremity. I still have to rely on the Fate Palace. He closed his eyes to sense the other incarnations. They had all finished their mission and tempered their bodies to the peak, including the Order incarnation. Wang Wei borrowed their power. 3 root peak. He did not achieve 4 root because the main body was still in the Saint Realm. He left seclusion to see his wife. Finish? Yes, he replied as he embraced her. Prepare to go through mortal dust before breaking through? Yeah. What was your mortal dust like? Mine? Let me remember, pausing for a moment. My early years were about proving my worth to the world. And by the Saint Realm, my state of mind had changed, but there was still a lingering flaw. For mortal dust, I became the only daughter of the most wealthy individual of a mortal kingdom. Loved and cherished by everyone, a little princess. Then I was a princess adored by the kingdom, followed by a sovereign, the noblest individual in the kingdom. Afterward, I had some persona focused on my Dao. I was the best scholar in another kingdom. I remember these days arguing with these stinky scholars who could not accept a woman besting them. I was an artist focused on painting and sculpting. However, all my works were runes or patterns found in nature. Finally, my personas were people confined or sealed in different places. One spent her entire life in a house, never leaving its confine. The other was in prison. One of my personas spent a few days surviving inside a coffin. I learned a great deal about sealing in these experiences. For more chapters, please visit pan0v.com. How fascinating. Indeed, Wu Hong replied, reminiscing about the old days. Are you staying for a while or leaving now? I'm leaving. However, I have to go see Li Jun first. His parents were also in retreat. His father was receiving the Sword Empress guidance while his mother had to plan for the merit-proving method. He flew to Li Jun's mountains and the other was waiting for him with drinks. Where is Liling? She's refining pills. Wang Wei took the jar from him and took a sip. Since we now have karma washing water, why don't you unseal your wife and child? I want to see and spoil my nephew. Li Jun shook his head. Not until we become emperor, and I know for certain I can protect them. That's a good idea. He knew another reason was because of Yan Liling. It can cause trouble having the concubine with a wife present. And Li Jun is smart enough to understand how to navigate this kind of situation. After spending this generation with Liling and once they reached such a high realm in cultivation, many things will have different perspectives. This is for you, said Wang Wei as he handed him a book. What is it? I call it the 8 Heterogeneous Foundation, he explained. You will create 8 incarnations or clones since they are not connected to your existence. Anyway, you divide your soul into 8 perfect clones. Based on my previous sermon, 2 clones will cultivate a cultivation system based on essence, spirit, chi and law. Then, you will fuse with them, boosting your foundation and achieving immortal strength. Li Jun scanned the book. There were 4 cultivation systems contained inside. Pure essence cultivation that focused on the body, pure chi cultivation, pure spirit and law-based cultivation. The idea is that these clones would cultivate until the quasi-emperor realm. Then Li Jun will fuse with them and use them to nourish his fleshly body, chi, soul and law. As you can guess, this method has some flaws, continued Wang Wei. The fusion process will not be easy since the clones cultivate different cultivation systems, especially the chi clones. I've made it so they cultivate an energy compatible with the origin essence, but it could still cause trouble. He wanted a chi system that uses spirit chi. But he discovered spirit chi itself is a catalyst and cannot be directly used as an energy for a system. Or maybe this is beyond Wang Wei's current ability. Lastly, I've discovered there will be a significant amount of impurities in the bodies due to fusing two different systems or Dao foundations. I've created an impurity removing step and you can use other resources. No, it's not a problem considering I don't have to comprehend existence for this method. True. As the first person who cultivates this method, you should not have a problem. However, Heavenly Dao might place some restrictions on it afterward. A cultivation method that allows individuals to break the barrier between mortal and immortal will definitely have some restrictions. However, Heavenly Dao operates similarly to a game master in a game. It can fix loopholes or bugs in a game, but the player who discovered it can keep the benefits. Better yet, let my mother and Yen Liling cultivate it simultaneously under the heaven hiding array. Let's take advantage of the situation to get the most benefit. He also wanted to include Tai Gang, but with the latter's talent, he doubted he could cultivate this technique. What about the resources? Li Jun asked. Cultivating these clones into the quasi-emperor realm was not cheap. With your contributions, there should be no problem. However, he also had to talk to his mom. He contacted her through divine sense to ask. She told him that her Yu clan could raise 8 other true monarchs, and he did not have to worry. Wang Wei told her to ask if she needed, and she reassured him that she would not be polite with her own son. I just remember, suddenly said Li Jun, did you contact Wang Ju? No, what's wrong? She's injured. Eating time. Is it Dition? Was Wang Wei's first thought. He knew the latter had the Sex Lord's shadow technique and should have cultivated a powerful shadow on par with Wang Ju. However, he quickly denied this possibility since Wu Hong sealed him too early. The techniques have specific requirements, and he could not have met them when he was sealed. Despite eliminating this possibility, Wang Wei realized it was about time for Dition to be released. He has to participate in the cleanup to acquire a token and fight in the final battle. From now on, he can no longer be at ease when doing things since he has someone who can match in power and use experiences to compensate for the tactics department. He'll go see her. Do you want me to go with you? It's fine. Focus on cultivating. Wang Wei teleported to the small world where Wang Ju was recuperating. When he saw her, he squinted. A part of her body was disappearing while the other half tried to prevent this from happening. She was too focused on saving her life that she could not respond to his presence. Luckily, he had access to the formations and did not have to use force. Someone or something has erased her time, analyzed Wang Wei. He could tell someone hit her with an attack that erased part of her past. And if Wang Ju did not have access to some of his time laws, she would have ceased to exist by now. No, not erase but ate. Wang Wei came closer to analyze the situation. If Wang Ju's time could be represented by a line similar to the fate line, the attack took a bit out of her timeline. The attack's purpose could only erase certain events in her life, or it could wipe her out of existence. Wang Wei raised his hand to manifest his time law, trying to fix the gap in Wang Ju's timeline and save her. He failed. He tried again after borrowing the power of his incarnations. No response. Wang Wei instantly deployed his domain to surround her and boost his strength. This attempt was also of no use. He then accessed the River of Time, which should contain records of Wang Ju's timeline. He used the records to recreate her timeline and fix the gap. What level of time Dao is this? His attempt at even using the River of Time failed. This is not something even he can do. Fate surpasses time, so let's try that. He connected to the River of Fate and found Wang Ju's fate line. Using the record of her life in the fate line, he fixed the part that was eating. There was great resistance, but he succeeded in the end. Wang Ju stopped disappearing from reality and opened her eyes. Sect Master, thank you for saving me. This experience was horrifying. Having hundreds of years of her life vanished from her memories, having to question her sanity on whether these events occurred before slowly watching her dissipate from the world. What happened? Who did this? The upper dimension people, she replied, making Wang Wei frown. Although you can only use 70% of my main Bodhis power, only Immortal, Venerable and above could injure you. And there is that strange time technique. It was a trap, explained Wang Ju. I was investigating some suspicious people when I discovered the possible existence of another alliance against you. My investigation led me to a strange heaven chosen who seems to use insects. However, it was a trap. When I further investigated, they were prepared. They knew about the Lord Shadow technique and had a light-based formation that could affect my shadow status and weaken my access to your strength. Many thoughts flashed in Wang Wei's mind after hearing this. But he let continue without saying a word. Luckily, I've acquired some of your intuition and felt danger. Before they completely deploy the array, I used the talisman you gave me to create a hole and flee. Unfortunately, someone hit me with a strange time technique. Was it a person who attacked you or an item? I'm sorry, but I can't remember. Everything proceeded too quickly, and I did not have time to detect the surroundings. It's fine, Wang Wei replied. What's your analysis on this event? These people knew the Lord Shadow technique quite well, most likely from the Upper Dimension Dao opening sect. They came prepared with the knowledge, ready to deal with you through eliminating me. You are probably correct. Wang Wei thought deeper about the situation. Time Eater is involved. Wang just attacks suits perfectly for the latter's name. Furthermore, he is one of the paragons who did not participate in the ultimate taboo and knew and interacted with his ancestors. There is a high chance that he knew the Shadow Ruler, interacted with him, and even competed with the latter. You need to be more careful from now on. I will. Wang Ju also realized she was too intoxicated with her newfound power and was slightly careless. I have to go through mortal dust. When I'm done, I will refine a talisman for you to access all my powers. Wang Wei was slightly annoyed as he kept discovering the flaws of the unorthodox way of the Nine Extremity Dao Foundation. For more chapters, please visit pan0v.com. Thank you, Sect Master. But do you need the Fate Shadow Guards to protect you secretly? Mortal dust is a moment of weakness for many cultivators since they usually seal their memories and strength. Although they can instantly regain it when attacked, it is still a moment of vulnerability that can be exploited. No, Shadow One is in charge of protecting me. I see. Wang Ju was slightly disappointed but felt relieved since her young master's safety was what truly mattered. I wonder if I can become Shadow One instead of Shadow 3? She quickly removed this intrusive thought from her mind since she knew such a request would cause a seniority issue that could lead to real problems. Do you remember what the runes of the formation looked like? Asked Wang Wei, not knowing her inner turmoil about being called Shadow 3 in the future despite being the most powerful shadow. I do remember some of them. She did not see the entire thing, but she saw a good portion of it after he saw the light emanating from the runes. Write them down and have the sect analyze them. Since you said it was light-based, they can consult my mother. As you wish. Do you know where Yu Zhou is? Wang Wei decided to eliminate him even if there was no evidence to prove he was innocent. Anyway, since he is a heaven chosen, he is his enemy, and if he were a spy from the upper dimension, he would have eliminated an unstable factor of the world. And he could still kill a few heaven chosens without affecting his Son of Era title. Wang Ju did not immediately explain but checked the Fate Shadow's headquarters for information. He disappeared after the trap. We currently do not have his location. He's not in the Soul Race's small world? No. That was more suspicious. Forget it. He has to show up for the cleanup. Wang Wei ordered her to keep up her work before going to say his goodbyes. Then he headed to a mortal world for his mortal dust. Primordial chaos, outside the Eternal Ascension world. 7 people fought an enormous creature with dark red skin and 2 horizontal black horns that almost met before his forehead. Its body was muscular, displaying its developed muscle. It has leather pants and boots on, and these items shone with magical light, indicating their value. Primordial laws flowed out of his body as he fought all 7s. The battle lasted a few days with at least 6 of the others slightly injured. But the creature was perfectly intact. Even his skin was not broken. The creature looked at one of the 7 and then at the Eternal Ascension before leaving. He treated primordial chaos as its home as it navigated its endlessness like a pool in his backyard. That's the 7th attack in the past 100 years, commented Undead Phoenix. More should be coming. They could tell these attacks were nothing but testing the situation. We need to do something, added Earth Emperor. The 2 sons seemed occupied and told them to deal with the situation. Do what? This should just be the beginning, added Blood Dragon. Damn Chiyuan, snarked Five Feather Phoenix. The current situation is because of the All-Seeing Temple's predictions. Many people in the Chaos universe believe the Eternal Ascension world will be responsible for the upcoming chaos and want to either deal with them or enter to prepare. There is no point in complaining. We need solutions, reiterated Earth Emperor. What about the previous recruitment plan? As long as some potential paragons side with us, we can increase our power. Most of them do not want to associate with us, replied Blood Dragon. He tried to entice Qin Tong and a few other people in limbo, but they all looked at him in disdain. I still do not agree with this method, countered Five Feather Phoenix. We do not need to share our power and resources. I don't believe him going to say this, but I agree with her, added Undead Phoenix. Then what do we do once the situation is beyond our control? Asked Twin Flower. Don't we have the suns? They can protect the eternal ascension world with their power. Mortal Dust, L. Are you sure you want to do this line of work? Asked Big Mouth, a fat and muscular man. That's the best way to describe his appearance. His arms were muscular and well-defined, his legs thicker than a tree, but his belly might mistake him for a pregnant woman. Of course there was his oddly shaped big mouth. Yes, sir, replied a slightly thin young man dressed in coarse clothes. However, despite his social status indicated by his clothes and seeking employment, he had an odd charm around him that caught people's attention. However, they could never pinpoint or describe what his appeal was. It takes guts to do this job. Can you handle it? No problem, sir. Grunted Big Mouth. You're a little too skinny. Don't look at my appearance. But I have divine strength. The young man looked around and easily picked up a large saber weighing a few hundred genes with one hand. Big Mouth's eyes lit up. He initially accepted this lad Yanwei because one of his acquaintances called for a favor and because not many people were willing to do this dirty job. However, he became convinced after meeting the latter and seeing his respectful nature and strength. Good. Come tomorrow at dawn. They'll begin your training. Yanwei immediately bowed and profusely thanked him for this opportunity. He rushed home with excitement. The next day he arrived an hour before dawn, when night still loomed over the world. Big Mouth also arrived an hour early, and he was surprised when he saw the young lad waiting for him before the prison. The cocks haven't even crowed yet. Why are you here? I didn't want to be late. I like spunky people like you. I hope you can last long. So far he was satisfied with the new employee. Discipline is one of the key traits to succeed in anything. Big Mouth took the keys hanging on his side and opened the door, leading Yanwei through the corridor. The young lad looked at the cells and people imprisoned. The majority looked miserable and dressed poorly. But a few looked like nobles, so he guessed they were either corrupt ministers or people who offended even more powerful individuals. Big Mouth did not say much as he walked to 3 different cells and walked out with a prisoner. Then he led them to another section of the prison. Normally, I don't have this kind of authority. But since I need to train you, I can do this. Big Mouth led the prisoners to a platform and placed the first one in a device where his neck is shown and his hands tied behind his back. He took a blade and raised it above his head. The key is to have no hesitation, aim for the neck and use all your strength or the head won't fall. Chop. Yanwei watched with horror as blood spilled on the ground. Although he already knew what job he was applying for, it was completely different to experience it personally. Suddenly he felt his breakfast rushing to his throat and he swallowed it back. So, you didn't throw up? Better than the previous guy, commented Big Mouth after seeing the young lad's pale complexion. Let's see how you do when it's your turn. He changed to another prisoner and handed Yanwei the blade. He took the blade with trembling hands. Breathe in and out, instructed Big Mouth. The first time is usually the hardest. Yanwei followed his direction and breathed in and out. He effortlessly raised the blade above his head. But as he glanced at the prisoner's neck, he could not find the strength to drop it. Big Mouth did not give him any motivational words like this person was the most heinous criminal. He waited to see the young lad's capabilities. Yanwei hesitated for more than a minute. Then he gritted his teeth and dropped the blade, cutting the head off cleanly. As he watched the result of his actions, he rushed to the side of the platform and hurled everything inside his stomach. He did not stop after an entire minute of vomiting. Well, at least it was not messy, said Big Mouth as he patted the latter's shoulder. How can it get messy? The last guy did not use enough strength. The head was not cleanly cut off, showing the inside. Plus, the prisoner was screaming and had to chop more than 3 times before things ended. Yanwei felt like throwing up again. Don't be such a wuss. Anyway, this is the easiest part of the job. How can it get worse? You'll see. 4 more chapters, please visit Pan 0VL. Yanwei did not wait long to know what his superior said. A week later, after participating in a few public executions, he began to become acquainted with this job. He still felt squeezy at the fact he had killed people, but he had begun to become numb to the sensation. Then, everything worsens after that execution. Big Mouth had to travel to another city, and he was the only one left. And a big case occurred. Some ministers committed treason or something, and the governor ordered the execution of his entire family. Chop, chop, chop. At first, everything proceeded smoothly. The only issue Yanwei had was how he had to kill so many people consecutively, which was a first for him, especially without Big Mouth supports. However, the subsequent executions hunted him. "Please spare us. Our family is innocent," screamed a woman, one of the many concubines of the treacherous minister. Yanwei had to wear a mask that only showed his eyes, and they trembled after hearing this. He gritted his teeth and prepared the woman. "I'm begging you, please don't do this. Our family did nothing wrong, we were wrongly accused." The woman screamed and argued with him during the process. Yanwei raised his blade, but when he saw the pleading look in her eyes, his body once again quivered. He questioned himself, but as the supervisor of the execution asked him if there was a problem, he only shook his head before dropping the blade. It took every ounce of the strength of Yanwei's body to prevent himself from violently reacting. However, his heart palpitations did not stop no matter what he did. Amidst people's screams calling for their innocence, he mindlessly chopped people's heads. However, he was in a daze after killing that woman. His body moved, but his mind was elsewhere. It was like he watched himself from a three-dimensional point of view, observing the actions of a stranger. However, something brought his spirit back to reality. The last people to execute were children. The youngest was only 8 years old. When Yanwei dropped that blade, something in him broke. He could not forget that child's eyes, full of fear, ignorance, and innocence. In her eyes, he saw a future that could have been. She could have become a great scholar, mother, healer, artisan, poet, and so many possibilities. But his blade ended these futures. In the prison, Yanwei drank non-stop while sitting beside his execution blade. He did not know how long he drank until he heard footsteps. "How are you doing?" asked Big Mouth, but he received no response. The veteran executor knew how to deal with this situation, so he left before returning with some food. He sat next to the youngling and drank with him. "People should not be able to kill each other," Yanwei suddenly said. "What do you mean?" "No one should have the power to end someone else's fate. Such power should not be in the hands of mortals. No, even immortals should not have such power." "A world where people cannot be killed? That would be interesting. Unfortunately, this is not possible. And even if it was, I'm sure there would be some other trouble," commented Big Mouth. "Like what? Do you think there wouldn't be any problem if everyone were immortal? Society would collapse in a very short time." "Nd, a novel, I don't mean for everybody to be immortal. I mean that people should not be able to kill others. But dying of natural death, aging or sickness is fine." "What about criminals? They can be imprisoned and rot in jail for eternity." "I still feel it is a naive idea. If such a world like this existed, these innocent people would not have died." "You don't know if they were really innocent or just lying to save themselves," argued Big Mouth. "In what world will an 8-year-old child not be innocent? It's a shame what happened, but the son has to bear the crime of the father." "What a stupid thing to say," replied Yanwei before spitting on the ground, disdain all over his face. Big Mouth sighed and ignored his disrespect, knowing what the young lad was going through. He experienced the cruelty of this job. But after so many years he was now used to it. He patted Yanwei on the shoulder. "Don't drink on an empty stomach. Go to bed and tomorrow decide whether you want to continue this line of work." Mortal dust. Big Mouth watched a young man with a cold and emotionless face casually chop the head of 2 noblewomen. The latter did not bat an eye, there was no change in his expression, and he did not even care to hide his face. This kid changed so much in just 2 years. Big Mouth was worried since this was the first time he had to deal with this situation. Most people would become numb to the constant killing and take things like drinking and visiting brothels to deal with the guilt. However, the new hire Yanwei became cold and emotionless, worrying him that something terrible would happen to the young lad. "Pinin 0C. Yanwei, come here." The lad calmly walked before his employer, staring directly into Big Mouth's eyes. "I'm going to Red Tree City. Come with me." Big Mouth did not give him the time to reject it and stated it was an order. The next day the big belly man took the young lad to Red Tree City, a place known for its vibrant lifestyle and the red light district. He hoped Yanwei could get out of whatever headspace the latter was on and meet some new people. Regrettably, Yanwei remained quiet during the entire journey. The only time he reacted was after arriving. Numerous people surrounded two people, a fat youngster dressed in embroidery clothes and another malnourished youngster in coarse garments. The fat noble constantly kicked the other on the floor, swearing at the latter for dirtying his clothes. Everybody watched with empathy in their eyes, but no one dared do anything. They can only pray that the noble has enough and leave the youngster alone. "Don't look," said Big Mouth as he dragged Yen Wei from the large crowd. "Who is that?" asked Yen Wei. "The Lai family's third young master. The Lai family is the richest family in the surrounding prefecture. Don't mess with them." Yen Wei did not say anything. He followed Big Mouth around the city with the same blank look. They stayed at an inn for the night, and Big Mouth prepared to continue the tour tomorrow. He did not want to give up so easily. However, the following day he walked inside Yen Wei's room, trying to control his trembling body. "The third young master is dead." "Whose third young master?" asked Yen Wei. "Lai family. His head was chopped off in a back alley." "Oh." Big Mouth clenched his hands as he stared directly at the youngster. "Did you have something with his death?" "No." He could not tell whether this was the truth or not. In the end he took a deep breath to calm down. "The entire city is on lockdown by the Lai clan. You better hope you had nothing to do with this murder." For the next week, no one could enter and leave Red Tree City. The Lai clan searched every nook and cranny to find the killer. At first, nothing proceeded smoothly until the last day when they found a man with the blade that killed their third young master. The person tried to deny it, but the evidence was in his possession. However, the clan still wanted to interrogate him to find the motive behind his actions. Unfortunately, the man died due to poisoning. The conclusion was that someone hired him for the job and eliminated him to prevent him from talking. The Lai clan had many enemies and they concluded this was an attack on them. During the entire week, Big Mouth was on edge, fearing someone would barge into their inn and arrest the two of them. But after the Lai clan lifted the lockdown, he left in relief. Nevertheless, part of him still believed the youngster Yen Wei had something to do with that murder. Soon after returning to their city, Yen Wei began to learn martial arts. And soon the latter displayed his incredible talent. He could learn most techniques after seeing them once. Yen Wei even acquired a breathing technique that absorbed spiritual qi between heaven and earth to strengthen the body. Adding his natural divine strength, he was a born martial art genius. All these improvements should have been positive, but Big Mouth could not stop remembering what occurred in Red Tree City and feared something would happen. Part of him hoped Yen Wei would quit his job and use his newfound strength to make a living. Regrettably, 3 years passed and Yen Wei was the same. His face was cold and emotionless, always doing his job without any expression, remorse, or guilt, no matter who the prisoner was. At first, Big Mouth thought he maybe was being too sensitive, and things would return to a certain level of normalcy. However, he soon began to notice the disappearance of people in Droplet City where they lived. First, it was nothing but criminals the law did not catch. Then, it was corrupt government officials, nobles, martial artists, and wealthy merchants. Then, bang! Hundreds of armed soldiers barged into the prison surrounding Yen Wei. "What is the meaning of this?" Yen Wei asked before he saw someone in the middle of the soldiers. "Big Mouth. I can't allow you to continue your rampage," said Big Mouth with a slight pain in his voice. He always blamed him for allowing this youngster with a bright future to fall down this rabbit hole. "Don't try to deny it. The government has gathered enough evidence that leads to you. Why are you doing this?" "I am an emissary of fate, delivering their final judgment to these scums," Yen Wei replied coldly. "Scums? I can understand your actions for the criminals. But what about the innocent people you killed?" "That's only because of their poor luck. I put the name of every person in this city in a bowl and chose one at random. The selected person will receive a final judgment from fate, from me." "Who are you to decide people's fate?" roared Big Mouth. "Who is a nobleman to decide the fate of a poor countryman?" rebutted Yen Wei. "He does it because he has the strength to." Big Mouth looked at this youngster with red eyes. He knew the person he knew was long gone. And nothing he did would change that fact. Get him. The soldiers rushed with their weapons to arrest or permanently eliminate Yen Wei. Unfortunately, his martial art was truly superb. He used the room or environment to his benefit and ran away with severe injuries. A few months later, the fake killer struck again by stealing names from the magistrate, selecting them randomly and massacring everyone chosen. And from now, this became his M.O. modus operandi. Whenever he traveled, he would repeat the same things. Unfortunately, his actions offended countless martial arts sects and the government, leading to an alliance to eradicate him. Yan Wei fought a legendary battle for 3 days against the coalition of martial artists and the government. Unfortunately, his ultimate end was being stabbed by dozens if not more weapons. Wang Wei dug himself out from his grave. Being corrupt by the power of fate? I've never thought about that, he muttered. His goal has always been to control fate, but he never thought about the possible side effects of his actions. Well, he thought about them, but he always believed his cultivation and state of mind should be on par with the task by the time he could achieve such a feat. However, he realized this might not always be true. Maybe nothing is incorruptible, including Grand Tao, he muttered as his eyes lit up. This experience taught him that he should always be on the lookout and be vigilant to prevent corruption of his mind when he can control the power of fate of the entire chaos universe and beyond. He disappeared before reappearing in Droplet City. He stood before a grave. Wang Wei cleaned it up and placed some flowers. An 8-year-old child, how young and innocent. He thought while also pondering whether to revive her. With his mastery of life and death, it's as easy as eating for him to revive a mortal child. However, he shook his head. He knew fate was cruel. Every day millions of innocent women and children die because fate has determined their lives and outcome. And one day he has to get used to that cruelty before he can bend everything to his whim. Wang Wei stayed before the grave for a while before disappearing. He learned his lesson and will approach his goal of being free and unfettered by controlling fate with more prudence. He did not want to slowly lose his mind like Yan Wei, corrupted by the power he wielded. After leaving, he proceeded to his next persona, the king of an interesting kingdom. Wang Wei hoped he could also learn something valuable from this experience. He hoped to learn something from all his persona for this mortal dust. The husband did not resist since he knew it was pointless. The patrolman from the Public Security Bureau arrested him before taking the wife's statement. Attempted murder is one of the highest crimes in the empire, so the husband will probably spend the rest of his life in a dark cell. Undying Kingdom Royal Palace. The death-controlling King Li Wei sat on his throne, overlooking his ministers. "Is this necessary?" he asked. "Yes, Your Majesty," replied the Prime Minister. "These people have committed the greatest sins and must be executed. Furthermore, our prisons are getting too crowded. We must either eliminate some people or build more." Li Wei did not immediately respond. A few minutes later, he sighed before waving his hand to manifest a black talisman that would release a strange black and white light. "All the citizens of this kingdom are immortal, but only the king has the power to strip this immortality from them. I need you to supervise the entire thing," ordered the king. "As you wish." Li Wei dismissed everybody and stayed in the throne room. He sat for hours, alone with his thoughts. He was only disturbed when Queen Wang Hong entered the room with today's dinner. "Are you all right?" she asked as she checked his forehead for temperature. "You've been distracted, even dazed, the past few days. You remember how this kingdom started?" She did remember. Back then they were struggling to feed themselves and survive. So, her husband took a job as an executioner since it was good pay, and few people wanted to do this dirty job. However, after being forced to kill a family that was most likely innocent, he began to question things, including his sanity. Then one day an immortal came to see him and offered him the power to create a kingdom where everybody was undying, a kingdom where only he could decide a person's fate, including life and death. Ever since that day I've been thinking about why the immortal chose me for this mission. I wonder if there is a reason. We've had this conversation before, we cannot fathom the immortal's mind. So, for the sake of our family and this kingdom, don't think about these things, pleaded his wife. If only things were this easy, argued the husband. I can't sleep peacefully if I don't think about it. Queen Wang Hong sighed. All right, I'll indulge you. Did you find a reason? I thought the immortal wanted to test me. Well, not me but mortals in general. Test whether we would succumb when given absolute power. So, in the past 15 years since the establishment of this kingdom, I've done my best not to let power corrupt me. The queen knew it was not an easy task. Her husband is the only individual capable of granting death to people in this kingdom. And with such power, he has done an excellent job of not abusing his power and becoming a ruler dedicated to serving the people. When things do not go his way, when he loses control of his emotions, or when confronted with the vilest part of the human mind, it takes a lot of willpower not to abuse such power. Am sensing a but? Asked the queen. Yes. I feel that this is not the correct conclusion. What exactly do you expect to achieve? Asked the queen. You yourself are nothing but a mortal with no real power. So, how would you be able to identify the purpose of such an unfathomable being as the Immortal? The king did not reply. I understand how you feel, continued the queen. I also want answers. But I care more about our survival. So, please think twice before you do anything stupid. The king followed her advice throughout his entire reign. Whenever he had to make any decisions, especially regarding his powers, he would think twice. Nevertheless, he never stopped trying to figure out the purpose of his existence, why he had such power. At 93 years old, the king lay in bed, death approaching him. The old queen stood by his side, also ready to journey into the afterlife with him. I figured it out. Well, I figured something out. What is it? What if fate wanted something from me, just like the Immortal wanted something from the king? What if my desire to become free and unfettered was an objective granted to me by fate because it wanted something from me? Wanted what? Someone to control it? Or someone to create it? After all, time is not linear. I believe you called such phenomenon temporal causality loop, added the queen. Yes. Fate created me so I can create it, muttered Wang Wei as his eyes became more brilliant. Although this might be a nonsensical idea, I need to watch out for this possibility. And how are you going to do that? Wang Wei did not answer her, but he muttered to himself, Grand Daos River of Fate, my river of fate. As he regained his memories, power, and youth, he felt something had changed because of his enlightenment. He raised his hand to manifest 9 small magnificent buildings in the palm of his hand. There was 1 in the middle and 4 on the left and right that orbited the central one. Are those your fate palaces? Asked Wu Hong as she sensed the power fate these things emanated. Yes, he replied. Something seems to have changed with them after my enlightenment, but I can't tell what it is. Wu Hong looked at them. The Fate Palace is a form of spiritual foundation connected to your cultivation realm. The reason you only have 9 is that you are still immortal. After proving the Tao, you can condense the 10th and know what the change is. Do you know something? No, but I have some guesses. Wang Wei did not continue asking, but his intuition told him the Fate Palaces became more than tools he used to achieve 5 root strength in his 9-extremity Tao foundation. He dispersed the Fate Palaces before looking at his wife. Couldn't you let me have a harem during my mortal dust? If you want to lose access to Little Wei, you can try. I want to argue with you. And better than that. Wang Wei then left for his other persona. He became an assassin tasked with dealing with corrupt officials. This person involved the concept of being the sword of fate. After spending his life as an assassin, the king ordered his execution once he was no longer helpful. He learned of his possible eventual fate if he was not careful in his path of controlling fate, especially if his theory was correct. The following persona was a person who controlled a kingdom from the shadow. Despite not being the sovereign of that dynasty, that person could control the fate of every individual in the kingdom, including the sovereign and other royal family members. Ultimately, he died after someone close to him betrayed him. Wang Wei learned how fickle fate could be. A person might think they are controlling or playing with fate, but fate is also playing with them. Finally, Wang Wei decided to use the science and technology world for the remaining of his mortal dust. Mortal Dust 4. A high school boy laid his head on the desk, deep in sleep. It was a period of self-study and the teacher had not arrived, so the students could not contain their restlessness. They enjoyed every second of their freedom. And despite the noise and chaos, the student sleeping next to the window did not wake up. Fatty Jun, his best friend, knew the teacher was fast approaching and he would get in trouble if caught sleeping. So he walked to his best friend, Wang Wei, to try to wake him up. Before he succeeded, the latter suddenly stood up from his desk with a look of shock followed by confusion. Fate Nexus, my death, muttered Wang Wei before becoming even more confused. He did not know what these words meant. He just had a vivid dream that told him he would die at a very young age. Typically he would ignore such a thing as nothing but a dream. But for some reason he believed in that dream. Are you alright? Asked Fatty Jun. I'm fine. Just drowsy from the nap. Well, Teacher Long is on his way, so be presentable, especially since he doesn't like you very much. Wang Wei nodded before removing a bottle of water from his backpack and washing his face. He did not want the teacher to use his appearance to cause trouble for him. During the entire self-study class, Wang Wei pretended to be studying, but he was distracted thinking about that dream. Luckily for him, this class was today's last, and he rushed home as soon as school ended. He called his chauffeur to take him home. And as soon as he arrived, his mother asked him why he did not stay for after-school activities or attend his private lessons. "Mom, I think I'm dying." Yu Yan stopped cooking and looked up and down at his son. If he did not know his son was usually a good student, she would have used the spatula to teach him a lesson for saying something so ominous. "Boy, what are you talking about?" After hearing her son's explanation, she really wanted to beat him up. "It's just a dream," she reassured him. "But it's not." Yu Yan wanted to rebut him, but she stopped herself when she saw the determination in his eyes. For some reason she believed him, or at the very least decided to indulge him. "What do you want me to do?" Wang Wei was shocked since he did not think that far. After pausing for a moment, "Let's go to the hospital. Maybe there is something wrong with my body." "Fine," replied Yu Yan as she contacted their primary physician. Their family can be considered wealthy elites, so it was not a big deal to use the most extensive and expansive medical tests to reassure his son. An hour later, Yu Yan had already texted her husband about the situation while taking Wang Wei to the nearest hospital. Wang Wei asked the doctors to run all possible tests and they acquiesced. And when he saw Dr. Yen walk into the room with a serious look, he knew his hunch was correct. "Dr. Yen, is something wrong with my son?" "Don't give up yet," he hurriedly said. "I will go to prehistoric continent to see if I can find something." Everyone became quiet. The alien spaceship did not only bring forth evolution for humans. In the continent it first landed, it released some unknown substance that forcefully accelerated the evolution of all life forms. Animals, plants, and even some inorganic life forms appeared. As a result, the entire continent became inhabitable, forcing large-scale migration. The prehistoric continent contained many creatures, many on par with genetic warriors. There are even rumors there are fourth-level creatures deep in the continent. Unfortunately, satellites cannot properly capture images or information on that continent. The Blue Ocean Federation tried to drop numerous nuclear bombs on the continent to deal with these powerful creatures. Unfortunately, a powerful attack prevented these bombs from landing. Furthermore, the power of technology has drastically been reduced on the prehistoric continent. "This is too dangerous," argued Yu Yan. "It's worth it to save our son's life." Yu Yan choked her counter-argument. She could not disagree with this sentiment. "In that case, he'll start training as well. If I become a genetic warrior, I can help you." "And who will stay with Xiao Wei?" "It'll be fine," replied Wang Wei. "No, you want," cried Yu Yan as she knew her husband was correct. She also knew he wanted to undergo all the danger by himself. After dinner, Wang Tian quickly left. Wang Wei asked his mother for some time alone to think. While sitting on his bed, Wang Wei thought about his life. He had a bright future ahead of him, a good brother in the shape of Fatty Jun, and he hoped to declare his love for the school's flower, Wu Hong. Unfortunately, everything changed after one nap. "I must take matters into my hands," he muttered before going to sleep. The next day, Wang Wei began to focus on his studies. He usually was in the top 5 of the school. But now he turned into a study tyrant, always with a book in his hand. He ignored all other after-school activities. He forewent socializing or even interacting with people. He only studied. In just 1 year, at 16, he graduated high school and scored in the top percentile on the planet during the college exam. Wang Wei applied to Blue United University, the best university on the planet, sponsored by the Federation. His major was biology with a focus on genetics. He completed a 6-year course in just 3 years, graduating at the young age of 19. In a lab, Wang Wei looked at a recent blood test result. "I've already started to decline." The numbers looked slightly off, but he knew this was the beginning of his decline. Suddenly, his phone rang and he answered. "Xiao Wei, when are you coming home? I haven't seen you in 3 years." "Mom, I also want to see you," replied Wang Wei with a sigh. "But I don't have time." Yu Yan became quiet on the other side. She could not blame her son for trying to save himself. But as a mother, she had to watch her family slowly fall apart as her husband kept adventuring in that dangerous place, and her son tried to beat the clock. "How about I come live with you?" "No," replied Wang Wei. He did not want to be cold, but he already theorized how alarming his decline would be. And he did not want his mother to watch him slowly die. "Where are the things I asked for?" He changed the topic. "Your father has paid for a top-of-the-line research facility for you. However, according to him, you have to recruit personnel yourself." Wang Wei did not mind since he knew geneticists are extremely valuable in this age of genetic warrior. Everyone, from the government to private corporations, will do anything to recuperate, even a mediocre one, because of the hope of finding a way to create a fourth-level genetic warrior. Wang Wei knew he would not have as much problem recruiting people since he had made a slight name for himself in the community with some of the papers he released in the past 3 years. And when he turned 35, the group placed him in a machine with 2 pods. And when the time arrived, the machine beeped, signaling his death. Pushi. The other pod opened and a teenager walked out. Success? Asked Wu Hong. It appears so, replied the teenager as he looked at the dead Wang Wei. Fate wanted Wang Wei to die in the year 2136, and he did. His plan was simple: accept his fate, die, and transfer his mind, memories, and consciousness into another body. As such, he was now a new person with a new identity. He did not agree to the plan to transfer his mind into a clone to ensure success. So, are you really Wang Wei? Asked Li Jun. The answer to this question is quite philosophical, he replied. He did not transfer his higher consciousness to another body. Instead, he transferred his memories and thought patterns to a prepared body with its mind wiped. On a physical level, he was different. On a conceptual level, he had a different soul, if such a thing existed. But on an existential level, he had the same memories, ideologies, likes, dislikes, fears, aspirations, and everything that made him Wang Wei. After thinking about this, Wang Wei suddenly smiled as his eyes and hair turned gray and his face changed. Meanwhile, his family dispersed since they were only projections. This was an interesting experience. I have time to figure things out. One of the ways to win this game is to figure out its rules and essence. Most level 12 players do not even know the game's existence, let alone have such a deep comprehension of it. The majority of them cannot even reach level 12. And those who do give in to the despair of not having a path forward. Meanwhile, exceptional players like his ancestor, Qiyuan, knew to create a path forward. After all, he created a way from level 0 to 9. 5. If the Ultimate Game Master did not place severe restrictions on level 10 and above, players like Qiyuan would have continued to find a way to level 12. I now understand why he created the Second Origin War and the purpose of the Ultimate Taboo: to find a way to level 13. Of course, I'm guessing things were not that simple. He looked at the writing in the sand about the game. If someone from Earth saw them, they could immediately enter a deep state of enlightenment and understand order-disorder law and even a tiny portion of fate. No, as long as a cultivator was the gaming terminology he used, they would also become enlightened. He waved his hand to remove these writings. Some secrets of the world cannot be written down. Play the game to win the game, he muttered. Wang Wei then flew to the atmosphere, looking at the planet from above, reviewing his final mortal dust for a second time. He learned many lessons that he feels would be vital to his future cultivation path, especially when he tries to reach level 13. Furthermore, his comprehension of existence increased slightly after the method he used to cheat death. He understood that Eternal Emperor's eternal attribute is also a form of mimetic power. They exist in the form of memories, words, and even historical events. Additionally, not all Eternal Emperors are the same, for example, Qiyuan and the Absolute Beginning Emperor. However, because of all the events that Qiyuan has accomplished, it is at least 1,000 times more difficult to kill him than the Absolute Beginning Emperor. Qiyuan has created events that have affected the entire universe. And if someone wanted to kill him, they would have to erase him from the history of the entire Chaos universe, which involved near-infinite Chaos worlds. As he pondered all these things, his mind felt clearer than before. The silver law tree in his sea of consciousness bloomed to give birth to a fruit. There is only one thing I need an answer to now, Why do I want to become free and unfettered? The moment he learned about the cultivation world, he decided that this would be his primary goal. But the question is, why was this his goal? Was he a person naturally born desiring freedom? Did the environment of his past life mold this desire? Or was there another sinister reason he was obsessed with becoming free and unfettered? I just need to find the answer before proving the Tao. What would it be like? The author would know all the secrets of the universe, all the best scriptures, talents, fortunate encounters, etc. He could use them to rise to the top in a quick, efficient, and terrifying manner. That's what his ability was. He had a novel that contained all the knowledge of his chaos world, and he used it to his advantage. Wang Wei wanted to curse. People are often jealous of his talent and background. But compared to someone like that, he was nothing but dirt. Don't be jealous, he earned his ability. Even so, replied Wang Wei with gritted teeth. Is it too late for me to become a fate star? It's impossible for you. Why? You were never immortal. What does that mean? Think about it for a moment. The moment you were born, you had many great destinies, including becoming a cultivator. That means the moment I was born, I was destined to slowly lose the tethers of fate. Yes. Albeit contradictory, that's how it is for all cultivation geniuses and heaven chosens. They were never truly mortals. Meanwhile, fate stars are true NPCs, people essentially created to embellish the game and make it more realistic. Then, they successfully escaped the restriction of the source code and became players. No destiny, no luck or help. So, if I wanted to condense a fate star, I would have to abandon everything. All my luck, destinies, and karma, including my family and you, turn from a player into an NPC. Then, I would have one opportunity to succeed without any aid. Exactly. Okay, it's not worth it. I have pretty decent stats for this game. They'll use what I have. Wise choice, said Wu Hong with a brilliant smile as she caressed under his chin. By the way, what happened to Heavenly Book Paragon? Is he also in limbo? Probably not, since he refused to participate at the last minute. Wang Wei squinted his eyes. What are you going to do next? The cleanup should start soon, replied Wang Wei. He guessed most Heaven Chosens were now using time acceleration to the limit to catch up and be prepared for the cleanup. You should prepare that things will not be as simple as it seems. Indeed. Are you coming with me? No. My presence might make things more complicated. She had an inkling of the reason for the cleanup, but she was unsure of the detail, nor did she care to inquire. And she also felt things might become more complicated if she appeared. Wang Wei checked on Wang Ju to prepare for the upcoming events. He then checked the alliance with the demon race and ensured no problems. He did his duty as sect master. A little over 200 years later, Heavenly Tao announced the beginning of the cleanup. So, he flew to the lifeless domain along with everyone else. Clash of the Titans. As they gazed at each other, standing a few dozen meters from each other, they suddenly released their auras. Bang! A terrifying wind generated from their clash, sending some of the weaker geniuses in the surrounding away in the process. But this was the beginning. The clouds over the entire lifeless domain were divided into two. The baleful aura pushed to the corner of the domain, making space for the clash of these two titans. Lightning and thunder flashed, showing that even the heavens acknowledged the power of these two. At this point in the clash, only heaven chosens like Fang Lijuan, Zhen Biu, Huang Yuan, and people on that level could remain to watch this clash. Then, on Wang Wei's side, a projection of the river of fate manifested, making the spectators instantly feel despair because someone controlled every second of their life. On Di Tian's side, the wheel of samsara manifested, allowing everyone to have visions of their life from birth to path and even experience some memories from their past lives. During this clash of aura, only a few people remained close to those two: Tong Ruobing, Huo Feng Huang, Feng Heng, Li Jun, Ao Shen, Jingwu Hua, and two others, one man and one woman. The clash lasted for a few more seconds before another vision occurred of a golden throne situated between the two. As a result, the intensity of their aura suddenly increased. Boom. The standing top heaven chosens were pushed away by the clash. At this point, they could not resist the confrontation with only their aura and would need to use their powers. However, doing so would imply they lost or cheated, so they just flew away. How could they be so strong? Thought Tong Ruobing, biting her lower lip as she flew away. Should I accept these people's invitation? A while ago, a group of geniuses invited her to an alliance against Di Tian and Wang Wei. She rejected them but is now considering this as an option. Feng Heng squinted his eyes as he flew away. Typically he would have laid low-key as it was his normal mode of operation. However, he also needed to show his fangs once in a while. After all, the battle is one of the best ways to temper the mind. Of course, the main reason for his actions was because his situation was not the best in the Tai Profound Gate since the deception trial. Many of the upper echelons were suspicious of him. If it were not for another secret group inside the gate and his own power, he would have been discovered and forced to run away. As for that secret group, he could guess who it belonged to. He looked at Wang Wei's display of his might with countless thoughts flashing in his mind. The other also flew away from the center of the clash. And each had their own thoughts regarding this battle. Meanwhile, Wang Wei and Di Tian continued their conflict. The golden throne moved back and forth between them, with one having the advantage only momentarily. Although he had some knowledge before the Null Era, they were incomplete. Little 3 and 9 died in the war. Little 4 died in the upper dimension. Although I'm used to life and death, it saddens me to hear of their departure. I'll make a grave for them that I can worship. They would be pleased, replied Five Fingers as he began to fade. He looked at his body before cupping his hand and bowed politely. Father, it was nice to see you again. Di Tian smiled before nodding his head. As he watched his son disappear, he looked dazed for a few minutes before sitting down and continuing his cultivation. He called himself the Body Ancestor and wanted to spread a complementary body refining technique to the origin system. Unfortunately, body refining was too painful, arduous, and required too many resources. Most cultivators were satisfied with the minimum tempering they had to do for the origin system, resulting in his dream being crushed. Over time, the Body Dao Cave became the place with the best body refining techniques. Well, maybe not the best, but they have the most extensive collection and the most variety. Ingen? Where have I heard this name? Said Wang Wei, who took a moment to remember. You're the man who lost to my ancestor, Ancient Desolate. He remembered reading about Ancient Desolate's greatest competitor after the Buddhist emperor removed his karma for him. I did not lose to him. Back then, my heavenly zombie art was not completed yet. Whatever helps you sleep at night. So, what do you want with me? Ingen's mouth twitched slightly as he understood how easily this kid could get under people's skin. Nevertheless, he refused to argue with a junior. I have some conflict with your family. I can guess as much. What a rude brat, he muttered. I have accepted my loss to Wang Chong. But tell me why, after I woke up from my seal, I learned that Ancient Desolate Body Refining Scripture is known as the most powerful body refining scripture. And the reason for such a title is that it grants the cultivator the ability to fight great emperors in the quasi-emperor realm. What a load of bullshit. He only lost to Wang Chong because he did not finish his heavenly zombie art. But now, after sealing himself in Ain Grotto heaven for countless eras, he not only managed to temper his will to a high level but also perfected his technique. It is indeed bullshit. But what can I say? Some things, people, and events are mythified due to time. Brat, are you saying Wang Chong did not spread these lies? Quite the accusations, Lord Yin Zhen, said Wang Wei with squinted eyes. Does your Body Dao Cave have proof? Otherwise, you're defaming one of our ancestors. And our sect will not take lightly to false accusations. Yin Zhen's yellow eyes shone. Kid, I'm not here for a war of tongues. I only care about proving him the best with body refining. Alright. Let's settle this. Wang Wei raised his hand and Yin Zhen followed. They grasped each other's hands before squeezing. They controlled their strength to prevent affecting the surroundings. Bang. A few seconds later, Yin Zhen's hand exploded and he looked on in shock. He did not say anything and walked away. There is still a chance, he thought. How is it? Asked Li Jun. 54 Primordial Dragon Force, Peak 5 Leaf and Room for Growth? Li Jun squinted his eyes. It seems I have work cut out for me. Before everyone could process the situation, a vision occurred above the red gate in the middle of the domain. Heavenly Tao finally appeared. Oddity. Numerous lights flew from the heavens before floating before all the participants. They were all a token with the characters, Heaven Will, inscribed on them. Wang Wei held his token and observed it. As expected, it's not linked exclusively to anyone. If someone lost the token, they would lose their position to fight for the Heaven Will. And as everyone figured out this truth, this thing immediately became the most valuable thing to everyone present. Wang Wei instilled his divine sense and received a message on how it functioned. The current token is inactive and requires sacrifices of the devil race's blood to become active. After Heavenly Tao distributed the tokens, the door to the 9 devil gods began slowly opening, and the process took a few minutes. Hey, what happened to the 2 talents the sect got? Kai Song is doing excellent. She's been absorbing some of the miscellaneous emperor's inheritance and developing her talent for puppetry and constructs. She is now preparing to create her own scripture, replied Yen Liling. PND and OV1, what about that arrogant little guy? He's suffering from heart devil, said Li Jun. Oh, what happened? In just a short 20,000 years he reached the primordial spirit realm, showing his talent. However, the first thing he did afterward was challenging your projection in the battle tower. And as you can expect, he was abused. Wang Wei left his projection in the battle tower and often used it to fight himself to learn and grow. How come the elders let him do this? Especially in the primordial spirit realm? I guess they wanted to give him a wake-up call and quell his arrogance. But no one expected him to become obsessed with defeating you and creating Heart Demon. They need to fix it as soon as possible. These 2 are the future of the sect. Wang Wei wanted the sect to have more talent and be more prosperous. So, he is prepared to chat with the young lad if necessary to help him deal with his heart devil. The gate finally opened and he and Di Tian were the first to enter. Wang Wei felt like he had passed through a resistant film, and when he opened his eyes, he was alone and in a different place. Were all scattered? He did not mind as he scanned the surroundings and located the nearest habitat with living creatures. He teleported to a small village full of flame devils. They were a species with a head made of fire with a human body. Wang Wei snapped his finger and killed the nearest devil before checking his token. Then he frowned since nothing had happened. He snapped his finger again, killing all hundreds of people in this village. Nothing happened to his token. What's going on? He looked thousands of meters in the distance to the nearest city. He saw one of the Heaven Chosen waving his hand to instantly massacre a city of billions. He walked to it and touched it. What is it? Asked Li Jun. We can't enter the 9 devil god until we fulfill some condition. Wang Wei could feel the power of this film was terrifying. It reminded him of the time he asked Wu Hong to show him the power of an eternal emperor. But how is that possible? Heavenly Tao of any world will only reach 2nd class emperor and barely 1st class. It seems that an anomaly did occur in this world, said Yen Liling as she tried to no avail to look beyond this veil. The situation is worse than you think. Whoever laid this film should have the power to hide this small world completely, said Wang Wei with a frown. But they did not. Is it the surviving devil gods? But they should be in a weakened state. Even if they sacrificed all their powers, could they do something like this? Added Tai Gang. Could they have revived? But that would mean they removed Empress Wuxia and all the other emperors who reinforced it, said Li Jun. Could it be the people from the upper dimension? The revival of the devil race does not benefit them since they would need a long time to recuperate and pose a threat to anyone. Plus, even if they did return to the peak, no plane would let them achieve the same thing again, analyzed Yen Liling. Time Eater, Undead Phoenix, and Disaster Paragons should have lived in the upper dimension during the True Devil's catastrophe. They should know the terror of a revived devil race. Furthermore, if they removed the seal, they might offend Wu Hong, who should be quite the deterrent even in her weakened state. However, her state can also make them bolder and do things they normally would not. Wang Wei realized he did not have enough information to analyze the entire situation since there were too many variables and possibilities to consider. Although the 7 moons appeared on the surface as greedy, selfish and power-hungry people, each individual has their own goals, ambitions, desires and schemes. They can only be considered a loose alliance, which was good for Wang Wei once he tried to dismantle their rule. However, it also makes it more difficult to calculate some of their thought patterns and motives for doing anything. And if he considers that some of them usually act individually outside of the group's interest, it becomes even more complicated. While everyone was walking around to determine their next step, a sudden change occurred. Everyone became on guard since they sense a power similar to Heavenly Tao. Wang Wei frowned since he knew Wu Hong sealed the Heavenly Tao of the 9 Devil God world. Above the sky in their isolated area, characters began to appear. The first made a phrase that seemed to be a title, followed by 4 floating characters hanging above everyone's head. You're tuning in to the Phantom Sword Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.